This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate what if Naruto unleashed a Biomass Bloodline. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now, wasting no more time, let's start the story.
As I kept running through the streets, I told myself, I can't believe what I just did. I have to get out of here. Flashback. By the time he has had a good day, Naruto was 8 years old and not having one. He was fleeing from a group of shinobi ranging in rank from Chunin to Anbu and civilians. Naruto was renowned for his immense stamina, but he is mercilessly beaten to within an inch of his life when he is cornered. Receiving blows from fire jutsu, stabbing, and blunt weapon strikes. Few thoughts crossed Naruto's mind as he continued to run for his life. What are they doing? Where are your parents? Did they leave me behind? Why do they refer to me as a demon? He realizes his error as he turns the corner and finds himself at a dead end in the alley. His eyes were filled with fear as he turned around. We got you now, you demon. Thought you could outrun us. Hee, this is going to be fun. Now we're gonna finish what Yondaime Sama started. Trying to remove the Kyuubi's resurrection, an Anbu captain charged forward with his sword drawn. Time itself paused when he got close enough, and Naruto's heartbeat accelerated. His instincts cried out for him to survive. Something inside Naruto's head suddenly exploded. Everyone gasped in shock at what happened next as Naruto grabbed the sword by the blade and pushed his fist through the Anbu captain's stomach and out the back. From Naruto's arm, which, incidentally, was still thrust through the Anbu captain, red and black tendrils began to spread out, encircling the body and absorbing it into Naruto. As his eyes swung open and everything sped in its direction, Naruto clutched his head and let out a cry of agony. The intrigue web. Did you hear Sarutobi say that child has the fucking 9 tails sealed in them? We have to eliminate it before it kills us. It's the Kyuubi reincarnate. Depicts an elderly man with bandages covering his eye and arm. I can ensure that he becomes Konoha's ideal weapon if you turn him over. Enough. I will not tolerate a heartless Jinchuriki roaming the village. Danzo displays the training area and the captain using hand signals. Memory's end. He was shocked to learn that the 9-tailed demon fox had been sealed inside of him. In addition, he recalled how the Sandaime, whom he thought of as a grandfather, had always tried to divert his attention or assure him that everything was fine and that the villagers would stop, but that never happened. Before he knew it, more civilians and shinobi charged at Naruto, and he didn't realize what had happened until it was over. Naruto picked up the katana from the absorbed Anbu and started hacking and slashing everything he knew, as if he knew how to use it and had been doing it for years. He dropped the katana and started vomiting out his insides. First kills are never easy. As soon as a group of Anbu and the Kokage himself arrived, he paled at the carnage. Naruto panicked after seeing himself covered in blood and ran as quickly as his small legs would allow. Flashback end. Naruto told himself, they were right, I'm a monster, gotta keep running, as he ran until he reached the gates of Konoha. Naruto never turned around after leaving the village. The council, a rather plump civilian council member, yelled, it had to be the demon, we kept telling you that he was losing control and look what happened. The civilians all nodded their heads in agreement, and Sarutobi sighed. Sume, are you sure it was Naruto that did this? Although Sume, the head of the Inuzuka clan, had nothing against the Lil Gaki, she was unable to deceive the Hokage due to her dog. Like loyalty. Positive, his scent was all over the place, she said. At that moment, an Anbu squad entered the room. Hokage Sama, scouts spotted Naruto outside Konoha walls and heading towards the border. As the Hokage ordered, send every squad out, bring him back here unharmed. Hello. Some of the council members muttered, you should have just had him executed, as the Anbu squad swept Shunshin away in a flurry of leaves. Alongside Naruto, when Naruto stopped to catch his breath, he discovered that he was not tired, which shocked him to no end. He began to recap. He killed and somehow absorbed an Anbu captain into his bodies. He saw and gained his memories as well as some of the jutsu and skills he had. He slaughtered an entire mob like it was nothing, and he ran halfway across fire country without getting tired. He was certain that no one would be able to catch him at the distance he was traveling. Who am I? Am I the Kyuubi disguised as a human? As an 8-year-old boy, his curiosity reached unimaginable heights. Is there a bloodline here? How should I use it? Who's Danzo or these memories? He bombarded himself with so many questions he failed to notice a wild tiger sneak up on him. Naruto felt pain inflict on his right shoulder and panicked when he saw a rather hungry-looking tiger mauling on his arm. Naruto snapped again, the same feeling he got when he killed the mob. Clenching his fist, he let loose a punch sending the tiger to a tree. Before it could get back up, Naruto smashed its head on the ground, creating a small crater and splattering its brains all over the ground. Naruto regained awareness and saw black and red tendrils shoot out of his arms, consuming the tiger. Second later Naruto felt pain on his arms. Tendrils appeared again, morphing both his arms into a lethal pair of claws. Naruto took some time to examine his new toys, and noticed something else. He felt like his brain began to process more, like he was becoming smarter. His arms morphed back to normal, and decided to look into his memories again. He saw the same flashback he saw back in the alley. Then he made a decision that would change his life. Knowing that everyone detested him, Naruto thought, if I can master these abilities, I could become the strongest ninja ever. Then everyone will respect me, but if I'm gonna do this, then I can't stay in the village. He knew about the Hokage's crystal ball and didn't want anyone to know about it, so he set out into the wilderness in the hopes of becoming the strongest shinobi in the elemental nations. A time jump to 4 years later. Exactly 4 years have passed since Naruto left the village. 4 years have passed since his first murder. 4 years have passed since he acquired his unidentified talent. He started his training 4 years ago. Naruto was now about 5 feet 8 inches tall, having grown significantly. He was dressed in an open black trench coat with a hood and silver chains near the neck, black combat boots, black leather gloves, black style endo pants, and a black shirt with red flames at the bottom. Don't hate, Organization 13 coat. Naruto had established himself by eliminating bandits, rescuing ninjas who had gone missing, and so forth. As Naruto gained a better understanding of his abilities over the course of those 4 years, he chose to name it a bloodline and give it the name Blacklight. Naruto had learned that the bloodline had given him many different skills, most commonly super strength and increased agility, which allowed him to jump 20 feet in the air and land without getting hurt. He was able to glide short to medium distances and his wounds healed in seconds. Add Kyuubi's chakra, he also possessed 2 strange abilities. Hunter Pulse, which enables him to see one's nervous system, and Predator Vision, which allows him to see heat in a person's body. The ability to consume was the biggest surprise. As long as the brain remained intact, Naruto could have eaten the biomass of whatever creature he killed. He would acquire memories, abilities, and jutsu from consuming Naruto. Surprisingly, he would also acquire other people's bloodlines. When Naruto consumes someone with a bloodline, their DNA is combined with his, giving him that bloodline. Thus far, he has only received the Sharingan from Uchiha Root and Maiden. Dark Release, from Hiriko, a Konoha missing nin, along with instructions to retrieve the Konoha's weapon. Needless to say, they were literally gutted like pigs. Naruto concentrated on using his claws and controlling his chakras. He had recently acquired the Whiffist, and it goes without saying that he enjoyed playing hard to get with bandits. He thought about his ability to glide while traveling to Cloud Country. While it was helpful, it would have been preferable if he could have flown. He suddenly realized what would happen if he ate a bird after obtaining his claws from a tiger. It was approximately a week before he managed to capture a raven, and a grin that split his face appeared on his face. He developed a pair of black feather wings on his back, proving his theory correct. As he flew to Kumo, he smiled. It was 4 years ago. Now, in an attempt to locate the remnants of his clan's village, Uzushiogakure, Naruto was traveling to Wave Country. A few people told him that the Kyuubi had only ever been sealed in an Uzumaki, and that the Uzumaki clan was well known for their sealing methods. He was both enraged and perplexed by what he saw as he entered a small village. There were some people searching for food, a few children in rags, and people who appeared to be homeless on the streets. Something pulled his coat as he was passing through, and when he turned around, he saw a young child with a missing tooth extending her hand as though in desperation. Naruto gives her a pouch full of Ryo as his face softens. As he watches her go to show her friends, he tousles her hair. He walks on. He had had enough. Everything only seemed worse wherever he looked. He said to an old woman, "Excuse me ma'am, I'm not from around here, what exactly happened here?" "Gato, that's who, he's been draining our poor village off every cent we have. Those who couldn't pay were forced onto the streets, the children go around begging for food, we barely have enough to live on ourselves," replied she. That infuriated Naruto, who hates a few things more than anything else. Liars, rapists, traitors, perverts, and most of all, tyrants. Then he hears her go on. "Tazuna began building a bridge just west of here. We're hoping it could start a trade route where we can get fresh supplies, but Gato's already caught word of it earlier. We saw him and his men heading over there. If they get Tazuna, then we can't finish the bridge and we'll continue under his range. We have to help him," she said with an air of hopelessness. "Which way?" Which way is the bridge?" "Over on the west side," she points. "But why there's nothing we can do." "Ma'am, get every villager over to the bridge. I promise you and everyone who's listening, when you get there, Gato will be laying dead at my feet." Surprising everyone in the area, Naruto suddenly sprouted his black wings and flew towards the bridge. Everyone grabbed makeshift weapons and followed suit. At the bridge, hovering over the bridge while wearing his hood, Naruto saw that it was shrouded in a dense fog. When he was sufficiently close, Naruto lowered himself and sent biomass to his arms, clapping them together to release a loud, audible boom that dispersed the mist. A little further up, he saw a black-haired boy on the floor, pinkushined by Senbon, and another black-haired boy with a fake smile in a dome of ice mirrors. When it became clear, he saw what appeared to be a small battlefield with an elderly man Naruto assumed was Tazuna and a cute pink-haired girl protecting him with a set of kunai. A little farther up, he saw a man with silver gravity-defying hair and a black-haired man in bandages being held by a pack of dogs. On the bridge, after stopping his Raikiri charge, Kakashi and Zabuza started to scan the area and saw that his Kirigakure no Jutsu, hidden mist technique, had been scattered. What's going on? Zabuza thought. Nobody but me could have cancelled the mist. It's strange that only Zabuza was able to clear the mist. Why did he do it? Were Kakashi's ideas. Haku saw the mist too, but was taken aback when her ice mirror broke. Yes, Haku is a girl in this. After a brief glance at Haku, Sai turned to face Sasuke, saw that he was still alive, and started to remove the Senbon from his body. Sakura became concerned because she was unaware of what was going on until the mist cleared. The sound of the boom almost made her jump out of her skin. Sakura and Tazuna were fighting at the same time when he saw someone or something hovering in midair. Look, he exclaimed, and the ninja noticed him as they followed his finger. The most striking feature of the preteen, who was about 13 years old, was the pair of black feather wings on his back. He was dressed in a black trench coat with a hood, black combat boots, black leather gloves, black style Anbu pants, and a black shirt with red flames at the bottom. With his arms crossed, he stepped down onto the bridge and spoke. With his wings covered in biomass, Naruto said, "Stand down all of you. The fight's over, there are no need to kill each other when the enemy isn't even here yet." He then withdrew his wings back into his body. They all heard applause from the opposite end of the bridge just as Zabuza was about to reply. The short, slightly overweight man said, "So much for the demon of the mist. I was hoping you and your little slut would get killed before I got here." Zabuza screamed, "Gato, what are you doing here? Dumbass, you'd honestly think I would pay you. Why would I pay someone who's already dead?" Gato chuckled. Zabuza responded, "When I get my hands on you," but Gato interrupted him. "You'll what? You can barely stand. You think you can take on all my men? Now that's priceless. Kill them all, but keep a woman, they'll make fine sex slaves." Gato screamed. When he said that, Haku and Sakura both went pale. Naruto then saw the approaching villagers and chose to intervene. "So you're Gato, huh? Well, I promised the villagers that you would be dead at my feet, and let's just say I don't break my promises," said Naruto. "You think you can kill me? That's rich," Gato said, laughing. "Whoever brings me this Gaki's head gets paid tripled." Before Kakashi could intervene, Naruto charged in and sent biomass into his arms, turning them into claws, and he started slicing through the mercenaries, causing limbs to be lost, guts to be spilled, and bodies to be split in half. The bloodbath brought back memories of the Uchiha massacre, and Sasuke managed to wake up and stared in horror as his eyes fell on the carnage. Sakura and Haku felt like throwing up inside, but found it difficult to do so, and Tazuna vowed to quit drinking once this was over. Surprisingly, Sai had a wide-eyed expression, thinking, "What is this, a bloodline? Danzo Sama will need to hear about this." Zabuza and Kakashi both gaped in disbelief as they saw a 13-year-old boy destroying an army of mercenaries by himself. After the slaughter, the majority of the mercenaries thought, "Fuck the money, fuck this job, I need to get the fuck out of here." A small number, with the word "barely" as a key word, managed to escape by jumping off the bridge. The far end of the bridge was empty except for Naruto and Gato. "Wait, please have mercy. I'll give you anything you want, money, woman, I have it all," pleaded Gato, who was terrified to his core. Gato started writing down the number and giving it to Naruto after he paused to consider it. "All right, then, I want your bank account number." Naruto exclaimed, "The real one, damn it," as the villagers arrived at the bridge. Okay, Gato exclaimed in panic and gave the actual number. A chilly voice said, "Good, now you have 5 seconds to get the hell out of here," to Gato. Gato started running right away, and Naruto initiated the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Naruto launched the whiffist with his right arm, piercing Gato through the chest and into the back. Naruto shouted, "Get over here, in a voice that was enhanced by a demon. Is there anyone who can figure out this reference? Any last words, coward? Gato was grabbed by the throat and pulled back. Gato stabbed Naruto in the chest after grabbing his cane and drawing a sword. That wasn't very nice, Naruto said, glancing down at the sword before turning back to face Gato. After tearing off and devouring his head, Naruto thrust his hand into Gato, covered him with biomass, spun him around, and punched him in the air. Bio-bomb butt. Kicker. Then, with his blood and guts pouring out, Gato exploded in midair. As he retrieved Gato's memories, Naruto pulled the sword from his chest and painfully held his head. The intrigue web. A mercenary asked, "Sir, what exactly are you going to do with all this cash?" "All of this is going to Yagura Sama, it's to help him in the civil war in Kiri," stated Gato. "I still don't get why he started the bloodline purge. I mean, he was such a nice guy and then all of a sudden he's cold and heartless. Wonder what happened," replied the hired killer. "Who cares? Yagura Sama is rewarding me big by doing this," said Gato. Memories end. Naruto released his grip on his head and became aware of his surroundings again. He heard applause and turned to see the villagers celebrating the death of Gato, who had relieved them of the threat of tyranny. But based on what Naruto had discovered from Gato's recollection, it appeared that this Yagura individual was responsible for Gato's reign. He saw Zabuza's headband when he turned to face him. He was a Kiri nuke. Nin, missing Nin. He said, "You there, Zabuza, right?" "Yeah, what do you want?" Zabuza thought to himself, "He looks familiar, but I can't put my finger on it." "What do you know of a man named Yagura?" Zabuza's eyes widened slightly at this. He said, "Why do you want to know?" Because he didn't like the direction this was taking. Feeling a little strange about telling someone that he could steal people's memories by eating them, Naruto explained, "From the memories I gained from Gato, this Yagura person had a hand in Gato's tyranny. Yagura is the Yondaime Mizukage. He started a bloodline purge 3 years ago. He's already slaughtered 85% of bloodline users in Kiri. I became a nuke. Nin because I made an assassination attempt on him," he stated to Naruto. He inquired, "Is there anything else?" He said, "Yes, he's the Sanbi's Jinchuriki," leaving Naruto speechless. "Like me, he is a Jinchuriki, which makes things more challenging. Kurama, what are your thoughts?" Naruto thought. "Isobu's Jinchuriki, huh? And a cage no less, I remember now. Isobu was one of the 3 pacifists of the Biju. He would always try to avoid a fight, so I know he's not influencing Yagura. Maybe he's under a genjutsu?" Kurama thought. Over the years, Naruto was able to get in touch with Kyuubi. Kurama was a jerk for the first few months, but he eventually accepted being imprisoned inside the whiskered Gaki. However, he was aware of Naruto's powers and was not concerned about his host's weakness. Naruto pledged to use his chakra only in extreme circumstances. After a few months, Naruto managed to win Kurama's trust. He told Naruto about his parents, and while it goes without saying that Naruto was a little angry to learn that his father had sealed Kyuubi inside of him and made his life miserable, he was also relieved that his parents had loved him before he was even born. Before Uzushiogakure was destroyed in the Third Shinobi War, his mother Kushina, Konoha's Red Habanero, Red Death, was from there. Finding his mother's house and discovering more about his clan was the main reason Naruto was in Wave. Zabuza called out, "Hey kid, you're okay, you're staring into space." Zabuza grabbed him by the collar as soon as he said, "Huh, what, oh sorry, I was just thinking, you know the way back to Kiri, can you lead me there? I think I can help Yagura." He shouted, grabbing everyone's attention, "Why would you want to help him? That bastard's killed so many innocent people." "It's not what you think. I believe Yagura is under a powerful genjutsu," Naruto replied. He demanded, rather than asked, "Oh yeah, and how could you be so sure?" "Because I have an over-sized fox in my gut that knows the Biju better than anyone, and he knows that the Sanbi would never influence his host like that," he responded. Zabuza started to wonder. Sanbi might have been the reason, or perhaps he had finally lost it, because Yagura never behaved like this before the purge. It was as if he was possessed. Then the phrase, over-sized fox, went along in his mind. He shouted, "You're a Jinchuriki, Sai," he said in a deadpan tone. "Yes, I'm the Kyuubi no Kitsune's Jinchuriki." Everyone, but especially Team 7, was bug-eyed. Hold on, the host of the Kyuubi was. That's Naruto. With one eye the size of a dinner plate visible, Kakashi shouted in his mind. One shocked Zabuza said, "Wait, if Yagura is really under a genjutsu, then why hasn't he tried getting out of it?" "Not unless it's the same one that made Kyuubi attack Konoha all those years ago," replied he. Everyone's eyes were literally about to pop out of their sockets at this point. So what are you planning? What I'm going to do, I'm heading over to Kiri. I'll join the rebels in an attempt to get close to him. Then when I'm close I'll destroy the genjutsu, said he. And how are you going to do that? Glancing at Zabuza, Naruto flashed his fully developed Sharingan while grinning. It was that. Sasuke and Kakashi passed out. Zabuza exclaimed, how the hell do you have the Sharingan? Since all Uchiha have black eyes and hair. I can't go around revealing all my secrets now, can I? Naruto said with a simple chuckle. All right, be that way, complained Zabuza. When Naruto turned around, Tazuna approached him. Everyone nodded in agreement as he said, kid, you have no idea how much this means to us. We can never thank you enough for freeing us from that bastard. He flashed his renowned fox-like grin, making many women blush scarlet. Think nothing of it, I was just passing through. You guys should be lucky I have a good guy complex, he said. Then, Kakashi and Sasuke both awakened enough to hear each other talking. A civilian asked, can we get the name of our hero? Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze. Naruto grinned his trademark smile once more. Zabuza's heart stopped for precisely 10 seconds as a result of this. NN Namikaze. Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze, the child of Blacklight, he mumbled. Everyone was staring at Naruto, wondering, child of Blacklight? Zabuza opened a bingo book and read aloud just as Kakashi was about to inquire. Name. Namikaze Naruto Uzumaki alias, the fallen angel, child of Blacklight. 13 years old. Position. SS. Rank 450 million Ryo, Iwa, is the bounty. Bloodline. Maiden, Dark Release, Sharingan, and Blacklight. Super strength, speed, shape, shifting, and the ability to fly with black wings are among its abilities. Mid Anbu Taijutsu High Anbu, Ninjutsu Mid. Jonin Genjutsu. Mid Kage in Kenjutsu Fuinjutsu. Expert wears a black trench coat with silver chains around the neck, black combat boots, black leather gloves, black style Anbu pants, and a black shirt with flames at the bottom. Do not fight alone or run away at first sight. He can reportedly turn arms into weapons and consume people into his body. As he glanced at Sasuke, Naruto thought, I felt like I cheated with all those people I consumed. Meh, whatever, at least I trained to use them, unlike some people. Everyone was completely taken aback by what appeared to be a miniature cage in front of them. At last, Kakashi said, is that you, Naruto? After a while of silence, Naruto appeared to have a thought and said, I'm sorry, who are you? Everyone gave a face. Palm. Waxers, do you not recognize me? He inquired once more. Inu.ni, he said, a little startled, after noticing his gravity-defying hair. One of the few people who didn't harbor resentment toward Naruto for what transpired was Inu or Kakashi, who was assigned to protect him while he was at Konoha. Other than him, the only people he considered family were Weasel or Itachi, Sarutobi, and the Icarus. Where have you been, Naruto? Hokage. Sama sent Anbu to find you, but what happened for almost a year? He asked everyone who was listening, enjoying the drama thus far. Inu.ni, you know why I can't come back, everyone sees me as Kyuubi, and after what I did in that alley the council and the rest of the village would be shouting for my execution, he replied. Since he was aware of how everyone had returned to the village, Kakashi was unable to make a comeback. So, where are you going? After I deal with the situation in Kiri, I'll settle there, I guess. I can start over again and maybe start a clan there. I see. Given that you will no longer be in the village, Hokage, Sama will be a little let down. You know, the Icarus have been hoping that their top customer will return. After some thought, Naruto said, they really do miss me, don't they? Ayame, Tuchi, Sarutobi, Jiji, and Itachi. Hearing his brother's name made Sasuke tense, he frowned and turned away. Kakashi gave nod. Sigh. Alright, you've convinced me, I'll give Konoha another chance, and if things go south I'm heading to Kiri. Kakashi gave a sympathetic nod. He got a nod from Kakashi and said, alright, so we stay here for a little while until the bridge is finished. After that, I'll go with Zabuza and his apprentice and aid the rebellion. I'll return to Konoha. Hey Kakashi, is there a peace treaty between Kiri and Konoha? No, during the Second Shinobi War, we were cut off by the Third Mizukage. Why? The Team 7 gave him a startled look as he said, if things go right, I just might be able to get one between the two. Are we going to remain here all day now, or what? Out loud, Naruto uttered. Bring out the booze. He's right, shouted a random civilian. The villagers burst into tears of happiness as Naruto said, hey Tazuna, before I forget, here's the passcode for Gado's bank account. Yes, it would be a celebration tonight, but the following week would be a war. 1 week after Gato's death, Time Jump Zabuza, Haku, Team 7, and Naruto were all saying their goodbyes and getting ready to part ways. As the one-eyed Scarecrow said, "Good luck, Oto-Udo." "Hello. Good luck in Kiri Naruto-san," Sakura said, blushing slightly. Naruto smiled warmly and thanked her in a courteous manner. As for Sai, he had his fake, creepy smile, but he was mentally planning how to persuade Naruto to join Danzo, and with his skills at Danzo's command, Sai's master would be one step closer to taking over the Hidden Leaf. Sasuke glared at the blonde, knowing that he had a fully matured Sharingan, and worse, that he wasn't even Uchiha. With tears in her eyes, Inari asked, "Naruto.ni, do you really have to go now?" He hugged his surrogate little brother and said, "Yeah, sorry, Squirt, but people need me right now and I gotta do what I gotta do, but I'll be back to visit." They said their final goodbyes and headed to their respected destination. Kirigakure after 4 hours outside the gates were Naruto, Zabuza, and Haku. Zabuza gestured for Naruto to follow him on a 30-minute walk down a secret path, being careful not to use chakra lest Yagura's forces take over the entire area. They arrived at a steel-reinforced door. Zabuza knocked, and a small window slid open. "Password? Ain no Tsunami, Eternal Tsunami?" Before the door opened and a red-haired Kunoichi who appeared to be in her 20s was seen. Locks could be heard being unlocked. "Zabuza? I haven't seen you since the abortive assassination attempt, holy crap." "Yeah, I know, Amayuri, but be that as it may, this kid right here is our secret weapon in taking back Kiri," said Zabuza. Amayuri said, her face deadpan, "This kid. He looks like a fresh out of the academy genin. Are you sure being a noob.nin didn't age your brain cells? You got a bingo book, right?" Zabuza grinned. "Go to page 93. After doing so, she almost suffered a heart attack. "Oh yeah," Amayuri exclaimed, perspiring, "we're going to win with this kid." They enter and make their way to the war room. "Ah, Zabuza, you're back. I was wondering when you'd come out of hiding." In response, Zabuza said, "Ha, ha, very funny May." Naruto was having a hard time not staring at her assets, so he watched the rather busty-looking woman. "So you leave and you come back with 2 kids, I wonder why," she stated. Knowing that May would immediately welcome them to the rebellion, he responded, "Both of them are bloodline users." "So, what are you both capable of?" she inquired. In response, Haku says, "I use Hyadin. The only thing I can tell you is that it's called Blacklight," Naruto says, glancing at her. May appeared quite unhappy and wanted to know more. He immediately responded, "I also possess Maiden, Dark Release, and the Sharingan." They all stared at him as though he had grown a second head, wondering how a child who wasn't Uchiha could have it. Naruto turned it on, giving them all the creeps, and then he chose to lay it flat. "Listen, I believe that Yagura is under a form of genjutsu." When he mentioned the Mizukage, everyone tensed up. May turned to face him and asked, "Really, and what proof do you have?" "I am the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi." At that, everyone winced. Everyone listened in shock as Kyuubi explained that Sanbi was a pacifist Biju and that there was no way it would influence Yagura, and that there is also the possibility that he's under the same genjutsu that he was under during his attack on Konoha 13 years ago. The Yondaime was likely deluded and may not have intended to cause the purge, which immediately caused plans to change. "Okay, if he's under a genjutsu, then how we get him out?" May inquires. "If I can get him with my Sharingan, I can paralyze him long enough for me to transfer my subconscious into his mind. With Kyuubi I can get rid of the source and get him out," he continues. "Easier said than done," was the common thought among all of them. Through a headset, May whispered, "Everyone in position, wait for Naruto to give the signal." With Naruto currently on the rooftops, Naruto sent out his hunter pulse to see which guard would be best for his little distraction. After searching around, he found the ideal tool, and swiftly but silently ran and jumped from roof to roof until he found another guard, which he quickly stealthily consumed and shifted into. He then walked up behind his target, made sure no one was looking, put a hand over his mouth, stabbed his hand through the guard's back, and sent a biobomb inside his body. Naruto started walking toward the cage tower, leaving the guard who was now screaming in agony. Other guards ran up to see what was wrong, but as he did, tendrils exploded, stabbing every guard in the area and sucking it back in like a black hole, shooting blood high into the air. The signal is that every force leaves. As she and the rebellion stormed the village and engaged Yagura's forces in combat, May yelled. With Yagura, he sent his personal Anbu to investigate the explosion as soon as he heard it, but as soon as the alarm went off, he ordered his whole force to enter combat. With Naruto, when he reached the cage's office, he transformed his arm into a whatif and unleashed a horizontal lash that destroyed everything in its path. Yagura saw this and immediately struck the deck. Naruto rushed inside and used Hunter Pulse, confirming that the person in the office was the Mizukage. Naruto was standing in front of the tower when he charged Biomass to his legs, leapt 30 feet into the air, and ran the remaining feet up the wall. Yagura snatched up his staff and assumed stance, saying, "You, a bloodline user, doesn't matter, you'll be joining the rest of those abominations soon enough." "Yagura, it's time to wake up." Naruto shot back. SSBB's play vs Ridley theme. Naruto quickly made hand signals, drew 2 kunai, and launched them after changing his arm back to normal. Cage kunai no jutsu. The 2 kunai multiplied by 50 each, and Naruto charged Biomass to its arms, turning them into claws, and rushed at Yagura, who had just finished making hand signs. Yagura whirled his staff like a whirlwind, and the majority of the kunai bounced off while the few that remained were embedded in a wall. Sweden. Mizukagami no Jutsu, water release, water mirror technique. Yagura made another set of hand signals, and a reflection of Naruto came to life on the mirror, trapping the real Naruto in a stalemate. Sweden. Mizurappa, water release, wild water wave. Naruto charged Biomass to his body and released a shockwave that dispersed the mirror, allowing Yagura to dodge it. Yagura leapt outside and made his way to the roof, with Naruto pursuing. Sweden. Suihachi, water release, water bowl. Naruto's arm charges Biomass and transforms into a shield, obstructing his hand signs, and Yagura breaks them with a jet of warm water, sending several shuriken at him. Naruto also begins making hand signs after changing back. Teppodama, water release, gunshot, is the suit. Kaiketsuko, dark release, inhaling ma, is the melody. Naruto Maiden Jutsu quickly created more hand signs after absorbing Yagura's jutsu and chakra. Judgmento, dark release, judgment, is the melody. Yagura felt as though he was struck by his own jutsu with 5 times the force and fell backwards as Naruto converted both his and Yagura's chakras and shot them back as a light blue flame. As he slowly stood up, he saw Naruto inches from his face, Sharingan blazing, and he thought, here comes the hard part, as both of them fell unconscious. Music at the end. The mindscape of Yagura the moon had a Sharingan imprinted on it, and Naruto woke up in a room that was at least knee-deep in water. A tree with crystal blue leaves stood in the center of the room, with a few floating on the water's surface. I know I got this from Ocarina of Time, I just styled it up a bit more. So the person in charge of Yagura is Uchiha? Asked Naruto. Yagura emerged from the water's surface to study the scene, but something was strange. His clothing and skin appeared darker than the outside, and he had Sharingan on fire. Naruto thought, this is his mindscape, he can do anything here. Naruto charged Biomass to his arms, turning them into claws, and Yagura's staff changed its top end into a menacing looking scythe. They charged at each other as soon as a leaf touched the water's surface. Play the Freddy in the Real World theme from the Freddy vs. Jason Ost. Metal clashing reverberated throughout the space. They kept slashing at one another. Naruto slashed horizontal 3 times, extending his claws with each slash. Yagura blocked and upward slashed twice. Dodging both, Naruto sunk his right claw in the ground. Yagura jumped and floated in the air, avoiding the death spike that rose from underground. Seeing an opening, Yagura flew towards Naruto, attempting to hack him into bits. Using his right arm, shifted it into a shield, blocking Yagura's attack and pushing him back. Retracting his other claw, Naruto shifted it to the whatif and managed to get a hold of him. Naruto threw him up in the air. Still holding onto him, smashed him onto the floor. Naruto shifted both arms to claws and pounced at Yagura on for him to sink towards the floor. Naruto was at a disadvantage. He knew Yagura could pop up anywhere, so he activated his thermal vision and his Hunter Pulse. Looking around, he noticed a glowing area beneath him. He quickly sidestepped an upward slash. Naruto, pulling his claws back, shoved it into Yagura's chest. Music at the end. Yagura lay unmoving on the floor as Naruto, still holding his claws in his chest, drew in Kurama's Shikara and spread it out in the mindscape. When he saw the moon's Sharingan vanish and turn out to be the same color as the leaves, he turned to face Yagura, took the claws out of his chest, and saw it instantly heal. Yagura opened his eyes to reveal a pale violet hue, gazed at Naruto, and grinned as a single tear trickled down his cheek. Arigato. Everything turned white outside. Naruto woke up feeling exhausted. He noticed Yagura, who had also began to get up. Yagura looks at Naruto and did the one thing he didn't count on. Please, kill me. You wish for me to murder you? Naruto stumbled. Even if it was because of a genjutsu, it was still me. I killed all those innocent people, just because of a goddamn illusion I couldn't break. I have no right to live after everything I've done, Yagura said. Naruto rushes over and gives him a face punch. Baka, I know you feel guilty after what you did, but do you think that asking me to kill you is the right thing? We have evidence to clear you sentence. If you want to do something about it, find the one who put that damn genjutsu over, and kill him. Yagura was at a loss of words. He was begging to be killed for the sins he committed, but the kid in front of him was right. It wasn't his fault any of this happened. As he remembers, a man in an orange swirl like mask was the one who placed it on him to begin with. I don't care how long it takes or what I have to go through, I'm going to find that son of a bitch and I'm going to take his goddamn head off. If only it weren't for that man, none of this would have happened, Yagura said, his eyes full of hate. Naruto smiles. Well, let's head back. We don't need both sides killing each other now that this is over. Yagura nods and both jump off the roof and head towards the center of the village. As they pass by, they notice the damage and the amount of bodies scattered everywhere. Once they arrived there, every force resists. Yagura ordered the rebels, who discovered that Naruto was correct about the genjutsu, and the opposing forces, who believed that Yagura would prefer to fight to the death than to surrender. Both sides instantly halted and gaped in shock. So I take it, you're you again? Mei approaches the two of them. Yes, Mei Terumi correct, and the woman nods. As Mizukage, I hereby abdicate my position and designate you as the next in line. In addition to giving up, Yagura declared Mei the Godem Mizukage, and now everyone had eyes the size of dinner plates. She stumbled, WW what? Me, Mizukage, I don't think I can. Hey, you managed to lead your rebellion and hold off against me for the last 5 years without suffering major casualties. If that's not leadership, then I don't know what is, said Yagura. How about you? What will you do at this point? She inquired. I'm leaving. I'm hunt down the man that did this to me. It's better if I leave right away, he responded. What about you? She looked over at Naruto. I'm heading back to my home village. I'm giving them another chance. If they can't accept me, then I'll settle down somewhere else, he replied. After receiving agreements from both parties, she said, I see. Well, you'll always be welcomed here in Kiri. Naruto recalled something before he could go. Hey Mei, do you think I can negotiate a peace agreement with Kiri and Konoha? Since it would take years to rebuild the village after the damage was done, and a peace treaty would also create a trade route, Mei did the most sensible thing and agreed. Mei gave Naruto a scroll with the details of the treaty an hour later, and they said their goodbyes. Yagura went to Iwa in the hopes of learning more, and the village celebrated the end of the civil war. Some tried to thank Naruto, but he was long gone, but before he could do so, Amayuri told him to look her up the next time he was in Kiri before winking at him. Naruto was currently sprinting back to Konoha at full speed, a journey that would take at least 2 weeks, and arrived in a few hours. He slowed down as he approached and covered his head with his hood so that anyone attempting to identify him would be unaware of his identity. Hell, what are you doing here? He smiled beneath his hood and said, Azumo, Katetsu, it's been too long. I apologize. Are you someone we know? Both guards were shocked when Naruto pulled back his hood enough to reveal his face. Naruto? Katetsu instantly answered, Holy, well, go right in. The Hokage would want to see you. His words, thanks guys, were spoken as he dashed in, leaving a dust trail and some cracks in the ground. How strong do you think he's gotten in the past 4 years? I dunno, and I don't think I want to know, Tower of Hokage. When he entered the Hokage building, he went to the office and saw the secretary, who he remembered would always be mean to him and try to prevent him from seeing the Hokage. Naruto was having a great time, making people say, what the hell? As he ran past them, it was a blur to the unaided eye. I'm here to see the Hokage, so excuse me. Yes, immediately, go straight in, she said. A little taken aback, Naruto thought as he entered the Hokage's room, I guess the hood works wonders. Hello, young man. How may I be of assistance to you? The elderly Hokage inquired. Wow, I knew people didn't recognize me with this hood on, snickers Naruto. However, I guess I was mistaken because I didn't think it would be sufficient to trick you. Sarutobi scowls. Just who are you? Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, at your service. Naruto says with a smile, taking off his hood and making a mock bow. Sarutobi was babbling nonsense when his pipe fell out of his mouth. Naruto, is that really you? With his trademark smile, he declares, the one and only Gigi. While asking the 13-year-old questions, he gave him a hug. Where have you been, Naruto? What made you go? Are you aware of what I did to locate you? With a sigh, Naruto urged him to relax. Gigi, the reason I left is because of what happened in the alley those years ago. So it was him, Sarutobi thought sorrowfully. It was also because it unlocked my Kekkei Genkai. Why? You're descended from someone? Yes, which comes to my next point. I want to establish a clan here in Konoha. Yes, without a doubt, but what precisely is it capable of? I call my bloodline, Blacklight. It actually has 4 abilities. 4. That's new, Sarutobi thought. The first is my body. Though I may look weak, my physical strength is enough to rival Tsunade of the Sannin. Knowing of Tsunade's legendary strength, Sarutobi paled at that. Hell hath no fury like woman scorned, he said. It also increases my agility. My top speed I recorded was close around 230 miles per hour. I can also jump around 30.50 feet in the air and fall down without breaking my bones. I can run up walls without the use of chakra. That's pretty impressive without chakra. My second ability is my senses. I have what I like to call predator vision. The ability to detect a person's body heat, and another I call hunter pulse. This allows me to see one's nervous system as well as their heartbeat. If I can't detect their heat, their heartbeat will always be there. No one could hide from him with that kind of ability. Is that why he calls it hunter pulse? To demonstrate his point, he charged biomass into his right arm and shifted it into the whiffist. My third ability is shape-shifting. I can change my arms into various weapons. So far I can use claws, a whip, and a shield. These weapons are strong enough to cut through steel. I can probably use more, but I'll search later. Sarutobi, who was perspiring a little from anxiety, thought, I'm getting a bad feeling about his fourth ability. My fourth is my most dangerous. I have the ability to consume the biomass in any person or animal. He asked in shock, consume, like, eating them? Why is that what everyone believes? Sort of, when I say consume. I mean I can absorb their bodies into mine. This allows me to heal wounds almost instantly. I also gain their memories and any jutsu they may know, and, if they have a bloodline, I can add that to my DNA and obtain it myself. Sarutobi was now in complete shock at the prospect of such a strong lineage and the potential to acquire more, even though he disliked the thought of having to kill for it. Naruto, how many bloodlines have you obtained so far? So far I have the Sharingan, and before you ask, no, I didn't know he was a Uchiha. He had an Anbu mask with the kanji for ne, root, on it. Danzo. It was intended for root to be dissolved. I also have Maiden, dark release, I got from Hiriko, a missing nin. This caught him off guard. Hiriko was intended to be an A-rank nuke nin that bordered on an S rank. I see. Well, what clan name would you like to give? I want to take up my father's name. Let's just leave it as Namikaze. Even though he was aware of his father's identity and the things he had done to him, Hiruzen chose to continue his name and smiled at the boy. However, Minato left a rather negative impression after the Third Shinobi War, having defeated the majority of Iwa's forces with his legendary Hiroshin. If he learned of this, they would send assassins to eliminate Minato's lineage. Naruto, you do realize that Iwa would try to have assassins come take you out, said Hiruzen. Tisk, let them come, was Naruto's haughty response. Naruto interrupted him, saying, Naruto, I don't think you understand how serious this. Gigi, you've got a bingo book? Turn to page 93. Hiruzen did so, and he almost had a heart attack, just like the rebel in Kiri. Naruto, with skills like these, I can instantly make you Jonin. Gigi, as much as I want to, I rather not take shortcuts. I want to start as a genin like everyone else. Naruto pondered for a moment. Sarutobi was taken aback because he assumed Naruto would want to accept the offer and become Hokage, but he knew he couldn't change his mind. He handed him a black Hide.8, which Naruto accepted with pleasure and tied around his left arm. Well, if that's what you want, I Hiruzen Sarutobi, pronounce you Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Tokubetsu Genin of Konoha, he said. Gigi, I have a scroll that states a peace treaty between Konoha and Kiri, he said after extracting a scroll. Ah yes, Kakashi did say something about Kiri sending us that. Hi Gigi, I know this is asking a lot, but what I've seen over there I would highly recommend an alliance with them. Alright, I'll trust you on this. He signed it and summoned a messenger monkey and had him sent to Kiri. Arigato Gigi, you have no idea how much it means to those people. Think nothing of it. Anyway, Naruto, have you ever heard of the Chunin exams? Asks him. Not really. The only time I enter a village is when I need supplies and maybe something to eat. That's fine. See the Chunin exams, and determine those who are ready to reach the rank of Chunin. No, normally Genin can only enter with their 3-man squad, but with your current skills, I think you won't be needing one. Anyway, meet me back here in 2 weeks. I'll give you a form to sign to ensure you in, he replied. Naruto replied, alright then, thanks for everything Gigi. First thing I'm gonna do is get me some Ichiraku, then I'm heading over my father's estate. He said, Concerned for the safety of the foolish villagers, yes of course, see you in 2 weeks. Oh, and Naruto, if the villagers try anything, please go easy on them. He turns to face Naruto, who crosses his fingers behind his back and says, sure Gigi, I promise. When Naruto saw someone watching him from around the corner on his way to Ikaraku, he abruptly vanished and reappeared behind the person, forgetting that his hood was off. The two stared at each other, ocean blue eyes into pale white eyes. The intrigue web. The sound of a young girl sobbing. Hey, are you okay? When she looked up, she saw a boy her age with whiskers. I'm okay. Sniff. Naruto didn't like that answer. No you're not. Tell me what's wrong. My clan, sniff. S. Says I'm N. Nothing but an F. Failure, sniff. That I. If it don't S. Show promise it.as a gen and T. They'll brand me, she says as she weeps. Naruto scowls. I think they're crazy, how could they do that to you? I bet you're stronger than you look, all you need is some confidence, and you can prove to everyone that you're not some weakling they can pick on. She grinned and blushed bright red as she looked at him. Arigato, Naruto Uzumaki, Arigato, Naruto.kun. My name is H. Hinata H. Hyuga. Memories end. You mean Hinata? Given how close Naruto was to her, she flushes bright red. It took all of her willpower not to pass out right away. Are you N Naruto.kun, H. Hi? The same one Hinata.san. That was it. Hinata passed out, her face flushed scarlet, and steam poured from her head. You're okay. Hinata, I'm not making Naruto a fool. He's just expressing concern, he said, attempting to fan her with his hand. Because Naruto couldn't leave her there, he picked her up in bridal fashion and carried her to a bench nearby, where he left a note and laid her down. When Hinata woke up 15 minutes later, she saw and read the note. Hello. Hinata, I apologize for having to part ways with you. I have a lot of catching up to do. In any case, perhaps we could get together sometime if you're not too busy. Later, I'll see you. Naruto. She flushed and passed out once more. Ramen stand in Ikaraku. The brunette waitress said, hello, may I take your order? Unable to see it because of his hood, Naruto said, I'll take 2 of everything. With wide eyes, the waitress observed that nobody had eaten much, and the only person who had was. Didn't you say that staring at people is rude? Ayame.ne? Naruto smiled as he took off his hood. Kun Naruto. She leapt over and gave him a firm embrace, saying, Dad Naruto. Kun is back. Naruto, my #1 customer is back, exclaimed an elderly man as he hurried out of the kitchen. They all chuckled. What can we get you, then? Same thing I told Ayame.ne, 2 of everything, said he. Right away, Naruto.kun, after 30 minutes. After finishing his 30 bowls, Naruto paid and left the stand, but not before noticing Ayame giving him a lustful look. Normally, he would go and see Itachi, but 7 months after Naruto gained the Sharingan through consumption, Itachi massacred the Uchiha clan and was declared a nuke.nin, leaving him wondering why he did it. He remembered Itachi being a pacifist. Naruto had told both about what he had done over the previous 4 years, as well as what had happened in Kiri and Wave Country over the previous 3 weeks. He even told them about the clan he was starting, and offered sanctuary if they ever needed it, but they politely declined. When Naruto arrived at his father's estate, he used a kunai to cut his hand and let the fresh blood spill onto the seal. It took a few seconds for the seal to glow red and slowly open, leaving onlookers wondering, who is that? What gives him the right to go into Yondaime? Sama's estate? And, is he a namikaze? After a while, the clone's memories returned to him, and he went upstairs to the bedroom, where he saw a picture of his parents. A man who appeared to be an older Naruto in the Hokage robes, holding a red-haired woman with a pregnant belly. He smiled, put the frame down, took a portrait off the wall, and slid his hand once more. The safe that was embedded in the wall opened, revealing 2 scrolls, which he opened and read. The Hiroshin Ninjutsu type position, S-chains of Shikara. Category: Fuinjutsu, Ninjutsu position. He thought, I guess they left me something after all. 2 weeks following Naruto's arrival, Naruto had just left the estate when he heard a shout and pulled on his hood while strolling down an alleyway. Why don't you pay attention to where you're going, you damn gaki? A teenager in all black, holding an 8-year-old by the collar, shouted, sporting a cap that resembled cat ears and what appeared to be makeup on his face. Come on, Kankuro. Baki told us not to cause a scene. What if Gaara is there? The black-clad teen said, Tamari, both of them aren't even here, and besides, might as well teach this gaki a little lesson. He made a fist, but another black person wearing nin caught it. The hooded figure retorted, now don't go starting fights with little kids, they don't know any better. And I should listen to you because not only would you get your ass kicked, you'd also make your village look bad, he laughed. Oh, you think you can take me on, he said, removing a bandaged object from his abdomen. You don't intend to use crow, do you, Konkuro? When he said, you bet your ass I am, the hooded figure said, listen to the pretty lady, that red head in that tree looks pretty pissed at you. After going pale, they slowly turned to face a redhead who was dangling upside down from a tree branch. Gee Gara, I was just, Konkuro, you're a disgrace to our village. But I, shut up or I'll kill you. The redhead vanished and then reappeared in front of Naruto in a swirl of sand, and Konkuro remained silent and pale. You'll have to forgive my brother's antics, said he. Oh, that's not a problem. Are you all here for the Chunin exams? Yes, we are. All right, you'd better leave now so you don't miss anything. Was it Gara? He asked, getting the redhead to nod in agreement. Looking him square in the eye, Naruto said, I'll be looking forward to fighting you. This guy, he's just like me, but, which one? Naruto thought, then turned and walked away. Mother, you want me to? Stay away from him, Gara said, clutching Konkuro's head as he walked back, followed by Tamari. Unaware of what was going on, Konohamaru set out to locate Moegi and Udon. On the rooftop a sullen teenager with raven hair thought, it's that guy from Wave Country, so he's here for the Chunin exams. Good, if I can beat him then I'll be one step closer to killing him. A pink-haired girl thought, he's taking the exams too, he's too strong to a genin. Good he's back, I must tell Danzo right away, a boy with pale skin and a phony smile thought. Within a tree, better keep an eye out for that hooded teen. Hey, we're here for the Uchiha, remember that anyone else is an enemy that must be dealt with. Their lone female teammate said, I hope we don't have to fight him, he seems dangerous. Office of the Hokage, hey Gigi, I'm here for the exam application. He handed Naruto an application and said, ah, Naruto, yes I got them right here. I'm just waiting for the Jonin senseis to pick them up for their squad. However, an Anbu spoof entered and said, Hokage Sama, the council requests your presence as well as Uzumaki-san, before vanishing. Only you, Kakashi, Hinata, and the Ikarikas are aware that I've returned. How did they even know? He stood up and walked out of the room, Naruto trailing behind him, saying, not unless someone saw you or was spying on our last meeting. Chamber of Council. The council, which they were referring to as the Civilian Council, was in charge of marketing, trading, and acting as the Hokage's advisors, along with the elders. Since the end of the Third Shinobi War, they have been enacting laws that have given them more overall political power, but they think they are on par with the Shinobi Council and have every right to meddle in shinobi affairs. What all the civilians in the council have in common, though, is that they hate Naruto, believing him to be the Kyuubi himself, and that the Uchiha should be revered as gods. The principal shinobi clans in Konoha made up the Shinobi Council, which included Heishi of the Hyuga clan, Sume of the Inuzuka clan, Shibi of the Aburame clan, Shikaku of the Nara clan, Inoichi of the Yamanaka clan, and Choza of the Akamichi clan. It is not surprising that the Uchiha are not yet members of the council, at least not until Sasuke Uchiha achieves Chunin rank. All clan heads are responsible for shinobi affairs within and outside the village. Aside from the Hokage, they are the second highest in the chain of command, which goes from Hokage to clan head, Anbu, Jonin, Chunin, Genin, and civilian. Everyone piped down and had their sights fixed on Hiruzen and Naruto as soon as they intervened. All right, could someone please tell me the purpose of this meeting and, more significantly, why I am also being called here? Since the Civilian Council was responsible for at least 80% of his assassinations and mobs directed at him, Naruto asked in a displeased tone. Yes, he truly did not want to be here right now. You will speak when you are addressed, boy. Where is the detainee, Uzumaki brat? We told you to bring him here. A rather plump civilian councilman yelled. First of all, I only answer to the Hokage. You have no right to try and order his shinobi, Naruto said, pulling off his hood and giving the man a fierce look. After what you did, you really are back, and you dare to show your face in this village, another councilman shouted. Well, did you say anything? In a monotone, he answered. Monumental stone. Achoo. The one-eyed scarecrow thought to himself, sniff. Someone must be talking about me. Returning to the council, the populace was incensed at the man's rage, with some calling for his execution and others shouting that he had disrespected the Great Council. A civilian grabbed a kitchen knife and hurried him because he could no longer stand to see the blonde with the whiskers. Naruto. Hiruzen shouted. The civilian side cheered because they believed the Kyuubi was finally dead, but they were mistaken. The shinobi side gasped in shock and failed to react quickly enough to stop it as the knife pierced Naruto's throat, spilling blood on the ground. Everyone was startled but soon jolted out of their daze when they saw Naruto take the knife from his throat and saw black and red tendrils close up the wound. Naruto simply stood there, not falling back dead, lifted his head up, and kicked the man dead in the chest, sending him flying across the wall with spider web cracks. "I'll shove your dick up your ass and snap it off if you do that again," he made a threat. Hiruzen exhaled with relief that Naruto was still alive, and almost all of the men paled at that point and clung to their manhood. "Anbu. Take him to Ibiki and tell Anko not to hold back." A squad descended from the ceiling, making everyone shudder, knowing full well what goes on in the torture and interrogation department. Naruto became irritated and asked, "Are we going to do this or what?" "Ah yes, we have reason to believe that Uzumaki-san contains both the Sharingan and an unknown bloodline of some sort," said the man wearing bandages as he was brought back to reality. A councilwoman with pink hair exclaimed, "That is impossible, it must have been stolen by the demon." Both Hiruzen and Naruto thought, "Well, she's only half right." Sume continued, "Sorry to say this but, she's right, we know who his birth parents are and none of them come from Uchiha lineage. If he does have the Sharingan then, the only way he could have gotten it is if he had stolen it." Everyone was watching Naruto, and the majority of the civilian council was considering how they could take advantage of this. Would Naruto mind explaining? Assuming the answer, Hiruzen asked. He activated his fully developed Sharingan and said, "I suppose it couldn't hurt," eliciting gasps from both sides. "It happened a few months after I left. I was on my way to Kumo, trying to figure out how my bloodline worked, and that's when I was attacked by an Anbu squad. I believe they looked something like this," he said, as Naruto was engulfed in biomass like a root Anbu and covered in black and red tendrils. In Yamato's voice, he uttered, "I think this person's name was Yamato Uchiha." Upon realizing that the majority of the shinobi side had failed in their attempt to dispel the henge, Heishi activated his Byakugan and saw that his Chakra pathways were motionless, indicating that Naruto was not using chakra. "You see, one of my bloodline's abilities allows me to take the biomass of another living thing. When the Anbu failed their assassination attempt I consumed each of them," Heishi continued. "Why? You are a demon, you ate them," the councilwoman with the pink hair shouted. "Why does everyone think that?" Naruto rolled his eyes and sent biomass through his body, causing it to return to normal. "See, when I say consume, I mean absorb. I take their DNA and add it to mine. This lets me heal wounds, gain the victim's memories as well as jutsu. However, what I didn't know at the time was that if I consumed someone with a bloodline I would gain it myself." Knowing that anyone from his clan would lose the Byakugan and the clan's secrets if they enraged the whiskered blonde, Heishi went pale. Hiruzen then said, "So Danzo cared to explain why you sent Root when they were supposed to be disbanded, revealing key, killing intent. Not only that, but based on what I've gleaned from these memories, you were working with someone named Orochimaru. Care to explain?" Naruto continued. He was about to call in the Anbu when Danzo beat him to it, sort of. He was sweating profusely and was having trouble breathing. Hiruzen's ki was hitting him with almost full force at this point. "Root," he shouted. Wanting to witness Naruto's skills up close, he sneered and said, "Hokage Sama, permission to execute." A dozen roots fell from the ceiling and assumed battle stance. Naruto sent biomass to his arms and switched to his claws as the root-charged weapons came into view. 10. Grabbing an approaching blade, Naruto used his claw to cut off the root's arm before impaling him with his own sword. 9. With his legs holding him down, Naruto charged biomass into his feet, leapt on an unfortunate root, and decapitated the root. 8. Naruto stabbed 2 roots, but he stabbed them through the skulls instead. 7. He repositioned his arms, took the katanas from his body, and started spinning them around like saw blades. 6. 3 roots were decapitated in a blur. 5. 2 more roots were cut in half diagonally after both katanas were thrown. 4. He shoved his hand through his back and injected biomass after jumping over a root that was rapidly exhibiting hand signs. 3. Using his shield to block a fire jutsu and avoid katana slashes, Naruto leapt to the ceiling before diving down with his claws reformed. 2. His claws sank into both roots as he landed between them, instantly killing them. 1. When Naruto's hands returned to normal, he snapped his fingers, causing the last of the root to explode, splattering blood and guts throughout the room. Danzo's root squad was destroyed in 10 seconds, Naruto's black and red tendrils shot out and started devouring each body. In agony, Naruto held his head. The intrigue web. So that's your strategy? Yes, during the Chunin exams I plan on giving Sasuke the curse mark of heaven. He would make an excellent body. How about Hiruzen? I have plans for that old fool. In the third round I'll start the invasion. I already have Suna allied with myself. Just be sure you kill him, then I'll do my part. Danzo is being Hokage all you care about. He scowled. Fine, be like that, I'll make my way the Konoha in a few weeks, I'll have everything ready by then. See that you do. Memories end. As biomass grew around his arms, transforming them into huge fists resembling hammers, Naruto ceased gripping his head. Naruto had two things he wanted to say but was unable to choose between. Gigi won't like this. Oh my goodness, new toys. The room was filled with shock, awe, fear, and disbelief. Do you think that the events of the previous 10 seconds had any impact on either the civilian or shinobi sides? The shinobi side, including the Hokage, had numbers 1, 2, and 4 running through their heads. The civilians, on the other hand, were stuck on number 3, which is to say that they were terrified to death. To recap, Naruto killed and slaughtered a dozen of Danzo's personal soldiers in record time, repainted the room with blood, and then consumed them, which was rather unsettling. Naruto, are you sure you want to start as a genin, because the offer is still open for Jonin if not Anbu, Hokage said, sounding a little uneasy. We must put an end to it, before it decides to come after us, Hokage. Sama, you can't be serious. This degenerate boy just killed a group of Anbu, and he's obviously out of control. One of the council members yelled, garnering support from everyone on the side. The civilians were yelling for the shinobi side to be executed, but they were thinking deeply about Naruto's abilities, his fighting style, his shape, shifting, and that odd consuming ability. Was it the unidentified bloodline Sarutobi had mentioned prior to the slaughter? Naruto glared at the civilians, mainly the man who called him it, but he also noticed that a certain warhawk was missing. He said, damn, Danzo got away, and everyone turned to listen. Anbu, get every squad available and find him, he said. As he returned his arms to their normal position, Naruto said, Gigi, there's something you should know. What would that be? He answered, a bit more intent on Danzo right now. When I consumed the root, I looked into their memories. A man named Orochimaru plans to invade Konoha during the exam finals, and to make matters worse, there's the possibility that Suna may have an allegiance with him and join his side of the fight, he stated, shocking everyone. What should we do? This is bad, Hiruzen said. Gigi, call off the Anbu, have them prepare for the invasion. We'll worry about Sanzo later. Don't worry about him, I'll find him sooner or later, he said with a sadistic grin. When Hiruzen saw his surrogate grandson, he couldn't help but smile. Very well, Naruto, but it's best we discuss your status before having you go off to the exams. Right, Naruto answered, assuming an empty seat and leaning to his right, using his knuckle to support himself, Aizen style. As you just saw, Naruto's bloodline is actually the most dangerous I have ever seen because of its capacity to absorb and consume bloodlines, jutsu, and memories. Naruto has made the decision to start his own clan. One of the civilians said, Hokage. Sama, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we would like to know who this boy's birth parents are. Hiruzen glances at Naruto, who only nods in agreement. Naruto's birth mother was Konoha's Aki Chishio no Habanero, Red Hot Death. Kushina Uzumaki. His father is the Konoha no Kiroi Senko, Yellow Flash. Minato Namikaze. Hiruzen stated with a straight face. Lies, our beloved Yondaimi's son could never be this demon, the councilwoman with the pink hair shouted. She turned pale at the thought of Naruto saying, I'm gonna let that remark slide since I feel better about being here after killing those rude Anbu, but if you want to join them just keep talking, and I'll be more than happy than to oblige. Anyway, as I was saying, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the wielder of the Blacklight bloodline, will be moving into his father's compound, as well as being put into CRA, said the man. When Naruto called out, the majority of the clan heads were considering forming an alliance with the blonde, while some were considering arranging marriages for their daughters. The shinobi side immediately agreed to the motion. Hey Gigi, I hate to have to leave in the middle of this, but I gotta go or I'll end up late, he said. Yes, of course, this meeting is just about over anyway. Thanks. Oh, and by the way, I'm not paying for the window. Wah. Before he could finish, Naruto leapt out, shattering a window to do so. Those nearby watched as Naruto emerged from a tiny crater with spider web cracks and fled at unimaginable speeds. Hiruzen's eyebrows twitched as he gazed out the window. Before we adjourn this meeting, is there anything anyone would like to say? May I ask? He asks. Hiruzen adjourned the meeting after no one spoke, leaving interested clan heads and civilians to murmur about having the boy put to death. Second floor of the academy. Naruto heard someone and proceeded to the third floor after noticing a group of genin standing in the hallway. He knew he was on the second floor because he also saw the sign hanging on the side of the door, which he assumed was there to attract the weaker teams. Why don't you drop the genjutsu? As he turned around, he saw the same raven-haired boy from Wave Country. Naruto glanced behind him and saw his childhood friend with pink hair, who merely winked at him, making her blush. He quickly put on his hood and ascended the stairs to avoid the Uchiha asking him how he got his clan's eyes. He kept walking until he came to two enormous closed doors and a familiar silver-haired Jonin. Hey, Kakashi.ni. How are you? I haven't seen you since Wave, he inquired. With a simple smile, Kakashi said, Whiskers, when did you return? About 2 weeks ago. I stayed in my dad's estate most of the time. That clarifies it. So you're here for the Chunin test? The rest of your team is where? I had Gigi make me a Tokubetsu Genin. I'm a one-man squad. With your skills, I was thinking they'd make you an Anbu or at the very least a Jonin. He grinned his signature smile and said, Oh, trust me, Gigi did ask me, but I don't really want to cheat, so I'm starting a Genin like everybody else. He grinned with his U-shaped eyes and said, Hey, well then good luck, before burying his face in a well-known orange book. All eyes were on Naruto as soon as he opened the doors. Few people made fun of him for being alone. A one-man team against how many three-man squads, and most tried to scare him by letting loose some ki. This kid is pleading to be killed. Everyone found it difficult to breathe. Some were frozen stiff, trying not to make any sudden movement, while to them it felt like the Shinigami itself was hovering above the 13-year-old. That changed when Naruto released his ki, and for a brief moment, a few caught a glimpse of his eyes, the background being pitch black, while the iris and pupil were glowing yellow. Those who have beaten Prototype 2 or at least watched the cutscene know what I mean. Everyone began to catch their breath after he let it go. The insane redhead asked himself, What's that, mother? Why does he scare you so much? It was inhuman. What was that? His chakra seems familiar, a certain blonde Kumo Nin and her tenant thought. The green-haired tacky Nin thought, Wow, that boy in the cloak must be really strong, he kind of cute too. Another red-headed Kumo Nin thought, that ki was strong, if not stronger than Raikage. Sama, why is it so familiar? A busty Kumo Nin thought, what a strong ki, how cool. Naruto approached a corner, put on his hood, and leaned against the wall with his head cocked downward. As Team 7 entered, Naruto saw that Sasuke was half-beaten, as if he had been in a fight or something, and that two more teams were approaching them. On the first team, he saw a boy with a gray sweater and a puppy on his head. On the second, he saw another boy with a lighter gray sweater and a high collar. On the third, he immediately recognized his dark blue-haired friend Hinata Hyuga. On the second team, he saw a blonde with a ponytail wearing purple. She was hugging the Uchiha and squealing like a fangirl. Sweatdrop. And next in line was a boy in a gray shirt and sweater, whom he recognized immediately as Inara. As they were speaking, a silver-haired teen with glasses approached and told them to keep their hair down. He directed his chakra to his ears. So, is this your first time, Kabuto-san? The Kunoichi with the pink hair inquired. He said sheepishly, No, unfortunately, this is my seventh. You must really be awful, the dog boy remarked. He pulled out a deck of cards and said, Well, even if I failed, I managed to get intel on almost every shinobi in this room. The silver-haired teen responded, These are Nin info cards. What you do is apply chakra to them, and any info recorded will appear, stats and all. Can you get information on specific people? Inquired the intrigued Ravenhead. He inquired. Yes, do you have a specific person in mind? He asked. He attracted Iwa Nin's attention by saying, Yes, I want information on Rock Lee, Gaara no Subaku, and one Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. He applied chakra to the cards and said, Ah, that's no fun, you already know their names. Anyhow, let's see. Lee and Gaara's information is identical to canon. Sasuke scowled at not receiving the information he wanted. Finally, one Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, oh dear, there's almost nothing on him. According to this, he was made genin a few days ago, and so far seems to possess a powerful bloodline. The only information recorded on him was found in a bingo book, he said, leaving some of the rookie nine wide-eyed. Naruto grinned, but he saw some nin with music note hite. Atesh rushing forward. The silver haired teen appeared in front of the Auto Nin, blocking his metallic arm in a black blur. The Iwa Nins recognized him right away and charged forward, kunais drawn, as he said, "Save it for the exams," with his hood off. This is where the Namikaze line ends. One of the Iwa Nin managed to slit Naruto's throat with a yell, leaving everyone stunned, with some of the girls covering their mouths in horror and the boys too shocked to speak. However, both the Iwa Nin and the boys realized something. Naruto didn't die. As black and red tendrils closed his wounds, everyone stared at Naruto with bug eyes as he unleashed a repulse that sent the Iwa Nin flying across the room. Naruto picked up one of the Iwa Nin by the throat and held him high, saying, "Ya know, people always go for my throat, and I keep telling them not to, but they never listen. Maybe I should kill one of you to prove my point." He was about to punch a hole through the Iwa Nin's chest when a puff of smoke revealed the examiners. The man eyed Naruto and said, "All right, maggots, sit down and save your energy for the second exam." Gaara, who was staring at Naruto, felt his blood run cold. Whatever he was going to do to the Iwa Nin, it would definitely be something he hopes Naruto doesn't do to him. He shook off the feeling and moved to his assigned seat. Naruto let the man drop on his butt. "All right, little girls, welcome to this year's Chunin exams. My name is Ibiki Morino. How are you doing?" was said after everyone had taken their seats. Now he remembered Ibiki's statement that if one person fails, the entire squad fails. Fortunately for him, Naruto was a one-man squad, so all he had to worry about was himself. He looked around and saw the red-headed boy control his sand to create a third eye, the bloodline users Sasuke, Neji, and Hinata using their Sharingan and Byakugan to copy each other's movements, and the Tsunamake, a boy from earlier getting up and claiming he needed to use the restroom. It was 0 hour when the written exam started, and Naruto was watching them all, waiting for us to make a mistake. After pulling information from his memory, Naruto wrote the first 7 answers right away after noticing the blonde Konoha Genin use her Shintenshi no Jutsu, mind transfer technique, on his pink-haired friend. Shaking his head, he decided to use his Sharingan to finish the rest of the exam after he felt a sting in his eye. He tried sending biomass to ease the pain, but it only made it worse, so he deactivated the Sharingan and the stinging stopped. Naruto wondered what had happened and why his eyes were hurting. Of course, he had used the Sharingan several times in the 2 years since he first acquired it, so what was going on? "You're not a Kakaichu. Is someone here your master?" he whispered as he felt someone observing him and noticed a tiny beetle on the ground. "BZZ. The Nin Taki. BZZ. I noticed that you appear to be carrying a small amount of demonic chakra. Is your master, by chance, a Jinchuriki?" "BZZ. BZZ. No, don't panic, I'm exactly like her. I'm number 9. Could you tell her that I said hello on my behalf?" BZZ. After saying, "Arigato," in a whisper, Naruto grinned and released the beetle to fly to its master. "Kit, you feel that Shukaku, Matabi, and Yuki are here too," Kurama said to Naruto as he glanced at the Taki Nin who was listening to her beetle. She turned her head to face him in surprise, and he gave her his signature smile while holding up 9 fingers. She understood and smiled, holding up 7 fingers. "Who are they?" "They're the first, second and 8-tailed Biju." Before making a whirl-like motion, Naruto held up 1 finger, then 2, then 8 to convey the message. She wondered, what does he mean? "Chome, any ideas?" "Little larva, feel around you, the first, second, and 8 Jinchuriki are here as well," said the tenant. Before she saw his next message, she was wide-eyed. He pointed at her, then at him, and then jabbed his thumb backwards. She blushed a little and nodded stupidly, and he gave her his signature grin, which caused her to turn crimson. Ahem. When Fu turned around, she saw a proctor staring at her with an eyebrow raised and 2 fingers raised, signifying that she had been caught twice, 3 more times, and that she and her squad were out. She sheepishly rubbed her head and resumed her exam. 45 minutes later. "All right, maggots, time's up and you are now ready for the final question. However, there will be one thing you need to understand. You will have to choose whether or not you want to take this question or quit right here, right now," he grinned. One of the Genins yelled, "What reasons for quitting?" He received shocked looks from everyone in the room as he said, "Because, if you were to answer the 10th question and answer ring, you will be immediately dropped from the program and never be allowed re-instatement." As Naruto looked at Ibiki, he noticed that Genin were raising their hands and being told to leave the room. Eventually, at least 30 to 40% of the room was empty. Naruto started balancing a kunai on his finger in an attempt to strengthen his chakra control, and Ibiki was occasionally taunting other teams to get them to leave, which surprisingly worked. When Naruto had had enough, he threw the kunai he was balancing at the board. "All right, I'm going to bed now. Will you answer the 10th question or will you just stand there and talk incoherently? His voice was monotone as he spoke. Big talk, but what exactly are you willing to do in the event that you don't succeed? It doesn't matter, I'll find some other way to become a shinobi. Now are you going to tell us the 10th questions or what? Naruto replied with a sigh. All right then, for those of you still here, Ibiki grinned. Everyone stiffened, braced themselves, and said, you pass, to confront the vault. What do you mean that we pass? Wait, the blonde Tsunagenin said. Damn, the fuck happened to that guy? Thought Naruto as Ibiki continued his speech and revealed his hidden face. You see, the purpose of this test was espionage. How good you were at getting information. This final question was to test you on whether you'd continue a mission no matter the odds. A huge black swirling ball appeared in the room as Ibiki was finishing up. It was a banner that read, Second Examiner, Single and Sexy, Madarashi Anko. The woman struck a pose that caused some people to perspire. Alright maggots, listen up, you are here because you managed to. Anko? What could be so crucial that you would interrupt me while I'm speaking, Ibiki? She said without emotion. Anko gave Ibiki a deadpan response when he said, that you're about half an hour early. As she glanced at the genin, her eyes twitched and she said, I see. 57 genin, there's still too many of them. Ibiki, you've gone soft, tisk, doesn't matter by the time I'm through with them. The number will be cut down by half, she said with a wicked grin. C. Cut down by half? A pink-haired genin thought. Naruto thought, single, sexy, and sadistic, oh man, I think I'm in love. At training ground 44, everyone meets, she shouted. As the genin started to leave the room, Anko noticed the blonde-haired teenager she had seen in the bingo book. She licked her lips and grinned as she considered how she could get close to the SS-ranked genin. The Forest of Death, also known as Training Ground 44. Everyone was waiting outside for the sadistic proctor to show up. This was short-lived, as she emerged in a whirl of leaves. All of you here, good. The training ground behind me is called the Forest of Death. The Shoden created it as his own personal training ground, and there are plants, animals, and insects there that are just waiting to bite you. To ensure that we are not held accountable for any injuries or deaths you sustain during this examination period, you must sign this waiver. She shouted, and everyone nodded. Wonderful. Once your team has signed the waiver, you will be given either an Earth or a Heaven scroll. Your goal is to take the other scroll from a team. It is up to you how you get it. Once you have the scroll, you have 7 days to finish it. Do I make myself clear? She shouted, and most people nodded slowly. Okay. Draw a line and sign your waiver. Naruto was glomped from behind and felt two medium-sized assets pressing against his back as he stood off waiting for the line to shorten while everyone else was in line. Naru-kun, why didn't you tell me you were going to be here? While wiping his nosebleed, he tried to hide his blush by saying, Hey there Karui-chan, long time no see. The intrigue web during his travels, he stopped by Kumo after gaining his wings. He stayed a few nights and met some of the people there. It turned out Jinchuriki weren't hated in the village, but few people still questioned it. He met Karui at a produce stand. Naruto knew he was going to get involved eventually, and that happened when some bandits and a B-ranked nuke nin cornered her. She knew she was dead, and the way they looked at her body made her shiver in fright. Like most fake stories, Naruto was just flying around minding his own business. When he saw the fight, knowing what would happen, boiled his blood to no end. Flaring his Sharingan and shaping his arms to claws, nosedived and struck dead on the nuke nin. The slaughter ended in matter of seconds, after consuming them, which disturbed Karui. Walked over to her and held his hand. She took it but fell on Naruto's chest making her blush. Naruto looked down, her leg was bleeding badly. He picked her up bridal style, grew his wings and took off back to Kumo. Karui never forgot that day. During her time at the hospital, the only people that visited her were the Raikage, her adopted sister Yugito, her teammates, and Naruto. Naruto seemed to be the only one to break her from her tough exterior as she began to open up to the blonde Jinchuriki, and when Naruto claimed that he was leaving the next day, she had to think of a way to thank him. When Karui asked him to meet her at her house late at night after she left the hospital, he asked her why, but all she did was look down and blush. That night, when Naruto arrived, she took his hand and led him to the bedroom, where he asked her if she was okay. She gave him a startled but returned the kiss, started to undress, and pushed him onto the bed. The next morning would have been the most exciting. The Raikage went into Karui's room to see what was wrong with her, and when he first entered, he assumed it was just the time of the month, but he was shocked to see two naked ninja cuddling next to each other, which made his blood boil. Hey, he shouted. Naruto lifted the sheets to reveal their nude lower torsos as the two teenagers leapt up, still holding each other, and glanced at the wreckage, then at each other, then at themselves. Naruto sheepishly remarked, "Okay, I can explain." External view. Those walking by were startled when Karui's room was blasted by an electrical explosion. They witnessed a half-naked boy in a black coat and boxers leaping out with most of his belongings, the wreckage pursuing, and Karui, dressed in white underwear and a Naruto shirt, pleading with the wreckage not to harm him. Memories end. "You still haven't responded to my question, Naru-kun?" she pouted as she said. He said defensively, "Sorry, Karui-chan, I've been busy. You know that Reikage-sama has been looking for you." "Fuck me," he said grimly. She muttered, "Funny thing actually, I managed to talk him out of killing you, and instead he decided to." "I can't hear you." "What's that?" His eyes widened as she whispered in his ear, A marriage that was arranged? "After he found out you were Namikaze's son and having heard of your bloodline he decided to form it between us," she said with heavy blushing. She leaned in to kiss him back after he smiled and kissed her on the lips. "Let's get in line before they count us out," he said, and she nodded. Away in different groups, a black-haired sound nin was growing tired of the blonde, a green-haired girl was looking jealously, and he saw the proctor's hand slowly crawling up his. He turned in his form, but before he could move, he was stuck between the two busty Konuchi's assets, giving him a serious nosebleed. He saw Anko's face, with a shit-eating grin, and started to rub his crotch with her leg. Before anything else could happen, Naruto swiftly Kawamiri. Substitution jutsu. Away. Both Anko and Karui cursed their luck before glaring at each other. "Okay, everybody, enter your gate number on my mark and start." As the gates opened, she shouted. "Leave." After racing in, the teams fled to the trees. First day Naruto was jumping through trees, using his hunter pulse to detect other teams. He spotted a team but he was too far away. He heard a scream, and rushed towards it. He found a team that was covered in leeches. One tried to jump on him, but was cut down by a kunai. More began to drop down, but Naruto easily maneuvered around them. He got to the team who looked rather pale. It seems like the leeches drained their blood dry, or almost. He stabbed each one, and searched the team. He found an earth scroll. Sadly he already had one. He savaged some more, and found some explosive tags, kunai, shuriken, wire, and blank scrolls. He took them all, placed each body and wrapped them together with the wire. He then placed explosive tags around them said to detonate in 1 hour. With that Naruto jumped up to a branch and continued. While jumping from branch to branch, he stopped for a bit. He searched his surroundings. Something big came through here. He jumped higher into the trees and created some clones to guard him while he slept. Day 2 when he woke up, he dispelled his clones and gained their memories. So far, nothing had happened during the night. Naruto used his hunter pulse once more and saw a team nearby, so he hurried towards them, taking in the scenery as he went, noticing that some of the trees had large webbings. He landed close to a cave, where he saw large cocoons or sacks, and when he saw that the team had been reduced to one, his claws formed and he hurried inside. He found himself in a large, webbing-covered room with the bodies of 2 genin, but where was the third? He looked up to see a giant spider with its fangs digging inside the now dead genin, dropping the body and staring at Naruto before crawling down to ground level. "I assume you're not interested in becoming friends," he said, causing the spider to shriek loudly. "I thought not," the spider said, launching its 2 front legs into the air and exposing its teeth. Naruto created a shadow clone and rushed cross-side taking out 2 of its back legs. The spider shrieked in pain and shot webbing at Naruto. Getting caught, the spider rushed over to him, quickly substituting himself with his clone. Saving himself, Naruto jumped on the back of the spider, forming his hammer fist smashed it to its body. The spider twitched for a bit, before getting smashed again and again. Naruto shot tendrils and absorbed the spider. His hands began to sting as tendrils and biomass began to engulf his arms, changing his hands to 3 bolty fingers, Type 2, tendrils. While Naruto was inspecting his hands, he saw more spiders crawling out. The first tried to pounce him. He shot his hand out, which looked like a caged punch. The fist hit the spider and was torn to shreds. Its legs and head was dangling in midair by 3 web-like tendrils. He continued the process, but more and more kept crawling out. He charged his fist and shot it at a nearby spider. To his surprise, tendrils shot out and pulled other spiders towards it, crushing it along with the others. Type 2, black hole skill. Quickly swapping back to the hammer fist, began crushing the spiders. The process lasted for a whole 20 minutes, before he heard a large shriek. Turning around, he came face to face with a 30-foot tarantula. It charged at Naruto, ramming him to a wall. Naruto retaliated by turning both his arms into spiked shields, stopping himself from hitting the webbed wall and pushing back the spider. Shifting his hands back to the hammer fist, Naruto jumped up, charged biomass to his arms and dove both his hammer fist into the spider. Small spikes shot up and stabbed the spider from underneath. Naruto held both hands and crushed the spider's head. Tendrils shot out and consumed it. At first Naruto felt nothing, then he felt power rushing through him and some debris began to levitate before falling back to the floor. Type 2. Mutation, Power-Up Sequence. Naruto hands morphed back to the tendrils. He noticed that they were darker and slightly smoother. Like they were reinforced. Shrugging, Naruto searched the bodies of the fallen genin and found a heaven scroll. Tucking it away, he looted the rest of their belongings, before charging biomass throughout his body and unleashing tendrils throughout the cave, causing it to collapse. Naruto dashed to the exit before it closed in. Looking back at the now closed cave, jumped back to the trees, creating a few clones to guard him while he rested. He may have fought bandits and nuked Nin in the past, but those spiders really gave him the workout. Day 3. Dispelling his clones and gaining their memories, Naruto woke up feeling rejuvenated. He discovered that they had killed some tigers who were considering mauling him while he was asleep. He jumped down, checked his bag, located the 3 scrolls, and made his way to the tower, where he felt 9 chakra sources rapidly approaching. As he got closer, he noticed a kunai embedded in his head, so he looked up and removed it. 3 teams of Iwa Nin descended. Oh, you still haven't learned from the last time. Shut up, Namikaze scum. Geez, you guys still pissed about what happened during the war. Jesus Christ, you'd think you people would have gotten over it by now. Stop talking. One shouted, running blindly. Naruto just licked the blood off his fingers and said, so who's next? After activating his Sharingan and ignoring the stinging sensation from the written exams and avoiding an incoming punch, Naruto grabbed the unlucky genin's arm and punched a hole through him, consuming him. Why? You monster, I thought I told you that I'd kill you to prove my point across. Now are you going to run and live or fight and die? Naruto said coldly. 2 of the genin started to tremble and fled, cowards. The young Iwa was devoured by Naruto's claws as he vanished. Hey, those 2 were smart, and for taking my warning, I won't kill them. You, however, won't be as lucky. Attack at long range, he can't hit you if you're far. The idea of victory was dashed when the very genin was impaled by a whip, like blade, and pulled close. Naruto then split him in half and devoured him. 2 more genin panicked and fled, and Naruto smirked evilly at the remaining genin, who was trembling like a leaf. Before he could reach the young Iwa Nin, a letter bomb landed between them, exploding. More landed on Naruto and started exploding. When the dust cleared, it revealed that one of the Iwa Nin was seriously wounded, and they hurried to him, only to be stabbed by claws. Both looked in horror as the injured Iwa Nin was covered in biomass and turned back to Naruto. We later find Naruto sleeping in a small hollowed tree close to a riverbank after he stole their equipment and looted their belongings, finding 2 heaven scrolls and 1 earth scroll. Day 4, when he felt a sinister chakra, Naruto turned and headed in that direction, landing in a tree where he saw Konoha teams fighting the Sound team. The Uchiha, who had just dislocated, had tattoos that looked like fire spreading quickly on his body. The girl of their team was about to attack, but Sakura intervened, pleading with him to stop. The Uchiha turned his arm into a shield, protecting both Sakura and the female Oto Nin. Sakura opened her eyes and looked at her savior, blushing wildly. Naruto unconsciously activated his Sharingan, adding more chakra to them, feeling the stinging sensation again, but it subdued. He looked at Sasuke dead in the eye and froze. Naruto's eyes had changed. The outer pupil now looked like blaze, like chakra, while the pupil itself looked like a buzz saw with a dot in the center. Go to art, blazes. Mangekyu. Sharingan. FP.10275139 to see how the Sharingan appears without the 4-edged shuriken in the middle. When Sasuke saw that this commoner had just achieved the same eyes as the man he had vowed to kill, he flared his Sharingan and charged at Naruto, blinded by anger. The marks on him spread quickly, covering more of his body, and Naruto, caught in the incoming fist, twisted himself over Sasuke and cut him in the back of the neck. Everyone sighed in relief when Sasuke was down and the marks started to retreat. Naruto knelt down to Sakura's eye level, causing her to blush. You alright? Her eyes were hypnotically fixed on his new eyes as she stammered, Hi, I'm fine. He turned to the bandaged Oto Nin and said, That's good, as he handed her and the other injured nin some ointment and healing salve. Sakura and Sai picked up the scroll and Sasuke and followed Naruto, who was already ahead, to the tower. Naruto started to feel exhausted. It appears the Mangekyo Sharingan uses more chakra than usual, so he deactivated it and continued on. Hey, drop your scroll and scram. The nin said, dropping a heaven scroll, and removing both of his teammates. When Naruto and Team 7 arrived at the tower 2 hours later, they saw a large board with a riddle on it. They pulled out their scrolls and opened them, and to their surprise, Team 7 received a congratulatory message from Iruka, while Naruto received a more unique greeting from Anko. Instead of asking him to answer the riddle, she took him to his room, locked the door, and installed a soundproof seal. She then took Naruto by the coat and started to undress him, exposing her large assets. If I can find the person who placed it on her, I can either force him to tell me or just consume his ass and find out how to get rid of it, he thought, scowling as he looked at the woman he made love to and saw a mark on her neck that matched the one the Uchiha had in the forest. Hey Anko-chan, well? She said, a little worn out. Do you want to become a member of the Namikaze clan? As she opened her eyes and looked at him, she said, I'm under CRA, and you seem like my kind of woman, so, I mean you don't have to but, before Anko kissed him firmly. Hi, arigato, Naruto. Koi, she said while she was on his chest. Knock, knock. Are you in there, Naruto-kun? In an attempt to come up with a way to explain it to her, Naruto thought, Karui-chan, but before he could, Anko, who was still nude, opened the door, dragged her inside, and undressed her. The third round. Anko smiled lustfully as he spoke. He was standing in an open hall with a statue holding the ram sign. He was feeling great, but a little sore. He had made love to his 2 fiancés yesterday. It was exactly as Anko had said, if you're old enough to kill, then you're old enough to drink and have sex. When Naruto informed Karui that he was under CRA and that he would be allowed to have a harem, she was a little disappointed and angry that she couldn't have him to herself, but she wouldn't mind sharing. He looked at Karui, who was standing next to him, holding his hand. He turned around and saw Anko eyeing him lustfully. As the room started to fill up, he saw that Anko was correct. The teams were cut in half, if not more, but he did eliminate 4 teams and witness 1 team being killed by a giant spider. After reflecting on the previous 5 days, Naruto was able to acquire a new weapon, tendrils, which he had previously used in his devastator attack. The attack he used on the spiders, which he named Black Hole, was similar to his bomb technique in that it seemed to tear victims from the inside out, leaving a few body parts dangling from web. Like suspension. It seems that the more powers he gains, the more gory they become. He confronted Kurama about his unexpected Mangekyo Sharingan and shared with him the knowledge he possessed of all 5 levels. 1 Tomo. Witness Genjutsu and Chakra Flow. 2 Tomo. Make perception clearer, easily identify Genjutsu, copy motions, and monitor rapid movement. Hypnosis. 3 Tomo. Copy Jutsu, Nin, Gen, and Tai, and a Kinjutsu known as Izanami. N. Mangekyo isn't necessary for Izanami, I've done the research. Tsukuyomi, Amaterasu, Susanoo, Izanagi, Kamui, and Yasaka Magatama are examples of Mangekyo. Kinjutsu. Immortality and hypnosis in Ain Mangekyo, human, Biju control. This piqued Naruto's interest because the final level could control both the Biju and people, as if he wasn't already sadistic enough. Naruto asked how to get it, and Kurama replied that he knew his host wouldn't harm the Biju unless absolutely necessary, and that he occasionally enjoyed it when Naruto played around with people before tearing them to pieces. He recalled Anko asking him to join the torture and interrogation division, to which Kurama undoubtedly agreed. He explained that the only way to get them was to take another Uchiha's eyes and transplant them. He continued by saying that using the Mangekyo would cause the user to lose their vision, but that didn't really bother him because he could just eat any random guy and take their vision. When Naruto had the opportunity, he formally made the decision to train with his new Sharingan. He wanted Kurama to be his personal sensei. Although Kurama felt a little uncomfortable having his host give him commands, he accepted. When Naruto inquired about the Mangekyo ability, he immediately brought up Izanagi and informed him that he was not going to teach him. When Naruto questioned why, he explained that it would cause him to lose his vision and go blind, and that even if he consumed someone, he would have to consume someone each time he used it. Surprisingly, Naruto agreed that it would be too much trouble. When Naruto felt a hand on his shoulder, he was startled out of his reverie and turned to see that it was the Uchiha. Dobi, you must explain to me how you obtained the eyes of my clan, he spoke in a venomous tone. Because he didn't want to start a fight in front of everyone and it would reflect poorly on his clan status, Naruto removed his hand from his shoulder and appeared unfazed. "You're genuinely curious," he said icily. Sasuke nodded despite grunting. The statement, "I got these eyes by accident," startled everyone in the room. "Are you aware of what I've sealed inside of me?" he said, and Sasuke nodded slowly. "It happened 4 years ago. I left because of something I did in self-defense. A man named Danzo saw me as a weapon and thought it would be in everyone's interests, or rather his, to bring me back and turn me into a mindless weapon for his needs," he said before adding venom. "While I was on my way to Wine Country, one of his personal guards called Root was sent to retrieve me. I killed and consumed each of them. What I didn't know was that the captain of the squad was a Uchiha named Yamato. After I consumed him, the Uchiha blood was embedded into my DNA and I was given the Sharingan." Sasuke finished his statement and relaxed a bit. "However, that still doesn't explain how you were able to obtain the 4th level of the Sharingan." Everyone, including the newly arrived Cages and Jonin, was wide-eyed when he said that. "Truthfully, I don't know. It happened when I was fighting, you remember. I don't know what I did to get to this level," Naruto clarified. Before leaving, Sasuke remarked, "I see. Those eyes," he thought bitterly. "Why should the Dobi get those eyes? How do you obtain the Mangekyo Sharingan, Kurama? To obtain it, one must witness at first hand the death of someone close, but that alone doesn't trigger it. One must feel emotion when that happens," the beast with 9 tails said. "But I never even got to know anyone, much less witnessed their death." Kurama was aware that Naruto had remained isolated from the villages during his time away from Konoha, only entering for food and supplies, and that he had never gotten close to anyone but Samui, who was still alive. So what was it? "Maybe it's because you've fully mastered the Sharingan," he replied. Naruto said, somewhat perplexed. "You think so? I mean, I used it a lot the first 3 years and I've barely used it since." Kurama remarked, "It's the only thing I can think of." Koi Naruto. "What? Is there something wrong with Karui-chan? You were spacing out. The Hokage's about to give a speech." A sheepish, "Oh right," came out of his mouth. "Good to see so many of you pass the second exam, so a huge congratulations is in order. Not that many never survive a day, let alone 5 in the forest of death. Now I would like to," the genin said, turning to face Cage, before a rather ill-looking Jonin interrupted him. "Excuse me. Cough. Hokage. Sama. I believe I should. Cough. Continue from here. Cough." "Ah yes. Of course Hayate-san, please continue." "Good. Do I have cough everyone's attention? Cough. Because there is still cough so many of you. Cough. We will be holding a cough preliminary match here. Cough. To shorten down the cough few who will advance. Cough. To Chunin rank. So this third test is a fight, right?" Kiba said. "That is cough correct. Hey sweet. Now, is there cough anyone here who cough wants to quit before we cough go on?" Hayate concluded. "You will be cough permitted to remain here and cough observe the matches before being cough escorted from the tower along cough everyone else." When the silver-haired teenager from the written tests raised his hand and was told to stay or go back to his room, Naruto walked away, and the others focused on Hayate. "Will anyone else cough be present?" "No, they say the screen goes through random names until it stops on." "Well, then could everyone cough go to the stands and wait cough for your name to appear cough on the screen," he said, and everyone did. The fights are identical to those in the canon, with the exception of the fights between Shino and Choji, Kiba and Dosu, Yugito and Fu ending in a draw, and Karui's teammates fighting each other and ending in a draw. I apologize, but these fights are really pointless in this story. Next, cough match, Zaku Ibumi vs Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Zaku boastfully remarked, another weak genin that will die at my hands." Zaku's eyes twitched and he got a tick mark on his head when Naruto said languidly, "Oh, this coming from a guy wearing an arm cast. Whatever causes it to happen, are both sides prepared?" Cough. "Hajime, jumping back," Hayate said. Zaku lifted his arm, which was still working. Zankuha. Zaku continued to shoot airwaves at Naruto as he yelled, decapitating airwaves, and sent a visible airwave, causing Naruto to jump to the side. In the upper stands, "He's not giving Naruto an opening, all he can do is dodge," stated Karui. Concerned about what the blonde would do, Kakashi said, "Don't worry about him, he's plotting something, I just know it." Naruto.kun. An anxious Anko thought, Naruto's face was expressionless as he dodged rather than attacked, saying, "Damn it, stand still," Zaku shouted. Sasuke thought, why doesn't he use the Sharingan? He could win instantly with that new level. Despite this, he was able to fight without fainting or losing as much chakra. Naruto kept dodging until Zaku started to appear a little worn out. He shouted in his mind, "Damn, I'm running out of chakra. Wait, that's what he was doing. He's making me tire myself out." Well, that was a nice workout, though not as good as dodging wind-enhanced kunai, but still nice, Naruto said, shocking everyone. Zaku was infuriated because Naruto had forced him to use up all of his chakra while he had only used up a little more than 2% of his own. "You quit?" he screamed, pushing up his fractured arm. How his other arm could be used, Sakura exclaimed in surprise. "Zankukyokuha. Extreme decapitating airwaves," he screamed, unleashing a powerful air blast that struck Naruto squarely, causing the surrounding area to burst with dust and debris. Naruto, Sakura, Hinata, Kakashi, Samui, Anko, and Hiruzen screamed, and Temari and Kin's faces were filled with concern. A huge black spiked shield emerged from the dust and retracted into Naruto's arm. "Are you finished?" He spoke calmly, unfazed by the assault. Zaku, on the other hand, displayed fear. After saying, "Good, because it's my turn," he vanished from view and reappeared crouching in front of Zaku, where he delivered a powerful uppercut that sent him flying high. Naruto then sent biomass to his legs and leapt higher, transforming his hands into three-fingered tendrils and shooting them towards the ground on both of Zaku's sides, putting him within range of attack. Naruto then slammed down hard on Zaku, sending both of them to the ground, leaving a medium-sized crater. An Prototype 2 Tendril Helicopter Finisher. The medics hurried over to Zaku, who was lying on the cracked ground with his ribs completely broken, piercing his lungs, crushing his spine, breaking his other arm, and shattering the bones of his entire torso. They were shocked and declared that he would be dead in a few minutes. Everyone was staring at him with wide eyes and displaying awe, fear, and shock. The Raikage, the Sand Siblings, Sasuke, Tenten, Neji, Lee, and the majority of the Rookie Nine were in shock, while Sakura, Hinata, Samui, Kakashi, Hiruzen, Mei, Fu, and Yugito were in awe, and finally, fear was the main emotion that drove the rest of the genin to pray that they wouldn't have to fight if they won their rounds. "Kitten, it's Kurama-kun, it's him," the two-tailed tenant exclaimed with delight. "Kurama-kun. That's Kyuubi's Jinchuriki kitten. I never thought he'd be sealed into that stud. I mean, look at him, strong, fierce, and I bet he's great in bed." "Matabi," she exclaimed in her head as her face flushed. "You're aware of your desire," she shouted at her host. Alongside the Taki Nin. "Wow, did you see that? That was amazing." "Kurama's host has a lot of potential, but you're not considering dating him, are you?" The words, "No, tisk, yeah right." After examining Zaku's dying form, Naruto simply approached him, ignoring the medic ninjas, and stomped on his head. Everyone watched in horror and amazement as red and black tendrils emerged and devoured Zaku. Naruto gripped his head a little before turning to face Kin, who blushed and turned away. Based on what Naruto learned from Zaku's memories, he was constantly hitting and yelling at her, so to be honest, he did Kin a favor. "Shosha, Namikaze Naruto Uzumaki," Hayate said. "A curtain." Masked Otto Jonin licked his lips in a corner and said, "I think I found a body better than Sasuke.kun's," looking at Kukuku. When Naruto saw the Hokage's expression that said, "We're going to have a talk later," he just shrugged and scratched the back of his head before his wings suddenly appeared, surprising everyone and taking off for the stands. Before he could pull them back, he felt a tug on them and turned to see Sakura and Hinata feeling them up. "Wow, they're so soft," said Sakura. "Can I keep this in, Naruto?" Hinata asked, picking up a black feather from the floor and holding it close. When he said, "Hi, Hinata," with a smile, she turned bright red and instantly passed out. Naruto laughed, picked her up, and sat her up. Next. Match, Neji Hyuga vs Hinata Hyuga. In Battle as Canon. I realize I'm too lazy, and I didn't remember the majority of Neji's rambling. Hinata was bleeding from her mouth and clutching the side of her torso. "Why do you keep getting up? You were a failure and always have been. Nothing will ever change that," Neji replied with arrogance. "I know I can't win, and I know I can never amount to everyone's expectations, but they're is someone I've always looked up to, He's the reason don't quit, have someone worth fighting for. A dot, and that is why I circa continue fighting to P. Protect the ones I circa care for E. Even if I end you up losing my L. life, she said as she breathed. All of them were shocked when Neji simply stared at her and said, let's test that theory, before charging at her and trying to kill her. In a dark red flash, a pronged kunai landed by Hinata's feet, and before they could stop him, Naruto appeared in front of Neji, grabbed his wrist, and threw him aside. The Cages and Jonin were dumbfounded. That was Minato's Hiraishin. Are guys going to stand there all day, medics? They ran to Hinata and put her on a stretcher after he yelled, jolting them out of their daze. Kureina hurried to her after they tried using medical jutsu, but it didn't seem to work. The rookie 9 were now becoming concerned after one of the medics stated, her lungs are failing, he was really trying to kill her. Hinata had been a friend from their academy, and her cousin had tried to kill her. She'll be fine, just let her rest, he said reassuringly, and Kureina thanked him for saving her student. I don't understand why you helped her. A failure is always a failure, Naruto said, glaring at Neji as he stood up and then knelt down beside Hinata. Ox, tiger, Shosen no jutsu. Mystical palm technique, he said as he placed his hands on Hinata's chest, causing her breathing to slow down. Hiruzen, Kakashi, and Kureina were taken aback. She would activate that fucking mark on your forehead if she truly wanted to beat you, you know, he said, startling the Jonin, Hiruzen, and Neji. He turned and walked up the stand after giving him a death glare and unleashing ki, dropping him to his knees, saying, know this, pray we don't end up as opponents. Otherwise I'll make what I did to Zaku look like child's play, because no one messes with my friends. Next game. Cough. Against Rock Lee, Sabaku no Gara. In. Fight in the same way as canon. No matter how much you hate, nothing will change. Would the winners. Cough. Please come down and. Cough. Draw a number, said Hayate. They approached, lined up, and selected a ball from the box. Neji said, 2. 7, Tamari said, Gara said, 4. 5, Konkuro said, 8, was Shikamaru's response. Shino said, 6. 3, Sasuke said, 1, smirked Naruto. Everyone thought, oh, he's fucked, or, I do not feel sorry for him, as Neji started to perspire. As everyone began to leave, Hiruzen stood up and said, Naruto, he stopped mid-step, come with me. Naruto moaned and lowered his suit. Well done, everyone who has won, will continue in 1 month, this will give everyone time to train themselves for their respected match, he said. Office Tower. Hey Kakashi.ni, hey Mei.san, was Naruto's first reaction upon entering and seeing Mei, and Kakashi there. He then turned for A. Hey there Raikage. Sama, he said tremblingly, hoping that he wasn't angry with him for having an affair with his niece. If you hurt her, make her cry, even make her sad. One time, I'm coming at you with razor blades and lemon juice. You feel me? I'm talking pain boy. Serious mind-numbing pain. You understand me? He whispered as he approached and put a bone-crushing hand on his shoulder. N. Cookie. Who is aware of this illusion? Gulp. Why? Yes. With a friendly pat on the back, he said, good to know. Take care of my niece, which made Naruto tremble like a leaf. Naruto gave him a sheepish laugh when he said, okay, first off Naruto, congratulations on making it to the finals, and the Hiraishin, I never thought I'd see it again. He gained the respect of Naruto, Kakashi, and Mei by saying, second, Naruto, I thought you were going to keep your bloodline abilities a secret, you know, with Orochimaru here, and if he saw you he'd want to take your body. Wait, you mean like giving me that mark that Sasuke and Anko-chan have? Yes, wait, Anko-chan? The statement, well you see, she kinda came up to me after the second exam, and we kinda ended up doing it, caused Hiruzen, Kakashi, Mei, and A, who was looking furious, to widen their eyes. Choking Naruto off his feet, A yelled, you haven't been engaged for more than a week and you're already cheating on her. I'm gacked. Under CRA, gack. I have a gack. Harem. Was all Naruto could manage to say before it gave him a suspicious look and slowly put him down. He claimed that, besides, Karui-chan joined halfway, so I don't really see the problem. However, it picked him up and strangled him once more. Mei was blushing like an atom, and Kakashi and Hiruzen were laughing like young schoolgirls. After 10 minutes, Mei and Kakashi managed to free Naruto from his hold. With everyone leaning in to listen, he said, okay Naruto, the third reason why you're here. We heard Sasuke's outburst. What is this about you gaining the 4th level of Sharingan? He lied while being fully aware of how he obtained it, saying, "It's true, but, honestly, I don't know how I got it." "Could you show it to us?" Naruto shrugged, closed his eyes, and sent chakra to them. When he opened them, his pupils resembled a buzz saw with a single dot in the middle, and his outer pupils resembled a blaze chakram. The fact that everyone was staring at him made Naruto appear very menacing. "Amazing, what can it do?" "Well, the Sharingan isn't my bloodline, and I just got this 2 days ago, so I really don't know what it is." He lied once more. Naturally, they bought it right away because Naruto made sense of what he was saying. "I see, well then, good luck on your training, Naruto. Me and the rest of the cages have matters to attend to." "Right later, Gigi, Mei-san, Raikage, Sama," said he. "My threat still lingers." Gulp. Naruto and Kakashi then departed the tower. The Shosen no Jutsu, mystical palm technique, prevented Hinata's lungs from rupturing, but she still required medical attention, so Naruto and Hinata were in the hospital at the time. Hinata was fortunate because Naruto rarely used the jutsu because he always used biomass to heal his wounds. "Are you sure this is what you want, Hinata?" "Why? Yes, I know Neji hates the main branch, but he doesn't deserve to die," she replied wearingly. When Naruto said, "Hinata, what Neji did was unforgivable. He was going to kill you without a hint of remorse. I can't, no, I won't allow him to live any longer." His pupils were glowing yellow, and biomass was crawling around his arms. She begged, "Naruto, please Circa, calm down." "Okay, I'll let him live, but that won't stop me from kicking his ass," Naruto said, his eyes softening and returning to normal as he gazed at her. "Arigato, Naruto," said Hinata with a smile. "Hey, you didn't stutter," Naruto said, grinning as he gave her a somewhat startled look. "Eep." Naruto laughed as she flushed. He smirked savagely and said, "Well, I have to go train. Now that I got a new Sharingan and a new play toy, I want to know how to use them." Hi. With a sigh, Naruto said, "So close, oh well, later Hinata," and walked out of the room. Hinata fainted after turning atomic red. The main lobby. Kakashi was reading a well-known orange book when Naruto entered the lobby. "Kakashi.ni. What are you doing here?" "Oh Whiskers, I'm here because I applied a seal on the curse mark Orochimaru placed on Sasuke. It left him unconscious, and I'm just here to drop him off," he replied. "I see. Hey Kakashi.ni, do you think it's possible to train me for the month?" Kakashi lowered his gaze. "Sorry Whiskers, I've got to train Sasuke. You've seen who he has to fight. Sasuke is going to need all the help he can get," said he. Sigh. "I see, it was the council, wasn't it? Partially, they did order that I train him because I possess the Sharingan and that I could teach him my jutsu, though it's kind of funny that they didn't ask you. I heard about what happened at the council last week, and with you having the Mangekyo. I was honestly thinking they'd order you train him," he said. Kakashi laughed sheepishly as he smirked and said, "They wouldn't ask me even if their own life depended on it. I'm the Kyuubi brat, remember?" "Well, why ask me though, aren't you strong enough already?" "Well, yeah, but I've always relied on my bloodline. I want to practice on my jutsu as well." Kakashi grinned at Naruto, who was now doing the same. Like Itachi, he didn't rely on his bloodline like most Uchiha did. Then something came back to him. "Hey Whiskers, I know you lied to the Hokage about the Sharingan. Seriously, how'd you get it?" he inquired. "Nothing gets past you, huh? Why do you want it anyway?" With a U-shaped smile, he said, "No reason, just wanted to know." Naruto simply gave him a deadpan expression. "What, I'm serious," he said, and Naruto became serious. Rooftop. Now, he vanished in a whirlpool of black feathers. Yup, personal shunshin, unless someone else used it before, I'll call my bad." Kakashi glanced around, saw that people were observing, and vanished in a puff of smoke. Rooftops. Kakashi saw Naruto leaning over the railing with his arms pointing out into the village when he emerged in a puff of smoke. Kakashi approached and also peered out. "Kakashi, the reason I don't want to tell you because of what you have to do to unlock it and the risks of using it." "It's okay if you don't want to tell me," Kakashi said, glancing at him. Kakashi.ni, to unlock the Mangekyo, one must kill the closest person to them, and using it repeatedly will cause the user to go blind. Wide-eyed, Kakashi realized that he had to kill his best friend because he couldn't live with himself if he didn't. Then he realized that if Naruto had it, he must have killed someone before. "Naruto, did you?" "No, I must have been a different case, even Kurama couldn't figure it out." "Kurama? You didn't think the tailed beasts were named after their tails, did you?" The fact that the tailed beasts had names startled Kakashi, and Naruto believed them? Naruto sprouted his wings and took off, leaving Kakashi to think about what he had just said. Look, Kakashi.ni. I don't know why you want the Mangekyo, but it's best that you don't, and if you do gain it, don't rely on it, he said. A red-haired teenager sat on a nearby roof in the shadows, listening to the conversation. The fuck does Orochi Teme want with the blonde anyway? He doesn't seem all the strong. Is it for his wings? She thought to herself. Rewind. Everything is falling into place. Once it's Sasuke's turn to fight, we'll initiate the invasion. You four set the barrier, make sure no one gets in, said the Sannin snake. They all exclaimed, "Hi, Orochimaru Sama," before heading to their quarters. To Yuya. "Hi, Orochimaru Sama," she glared as she turned. "There is someone I want. His abilities will be very useful to me. I want you to recruit him." She mocked the man, who was only going to curse the poor man and then wait for him to become weak before taking his life. With venom, she asked, "Who is it?" "His name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze." She was astonished because she had heard of the boy before and had recently seen his information in a bingo book. In addition, she knew that he was the Yondaime Hokage's son. "He is the village's Jinchuriki. I know that the Kyuubi will try and stop my influence from spreading, but in time he will fall, just like everyone else," he said with a wicked chuckle. "It shall be done," Tayuya said, glaring at him while placing a hand on her neck. "Good, the flashback is over," she said. "This is going to be a pain in the ass," before vanishing in a body flicker. Training Ground 44. The Death Forest. She sees Naruto leaping over the fence and into the trees as she poofs in front of the forest, so she did the same. After following him for at least an hour, she started to add chakra to her leaps in an attempt to keep up with him, but as soon as she did, Naruto vanished from the world. She paused and looked around, but she was unable to locate him. Where the fuck did he go? Red hair, foul mouth, and what Dosu calls a sadist in battle. You must be Tayuya, right? When she turned around, she saw Naruto sitting on a branch above her, his arms drooping idly from his spread legs. "I'll take that as a yes," she said, observing his movement without saying anything. He said, almost mockingly, "So, what is a lovely lady like you, stalking lil old me?" "It is in my master's best interest if you were to join us," she said, blushing at the compliment. She didn't pick it up. "Thanks for the offer, but I must decline. I know what your master wants, and he won't be able to leave that hickey on me." Tayuya squinted. Naruto was aware of Orochimaru's desires, but how? He said, "I also know why you're with him. It's because he threatened to kill Kin and ended up killing her the moment you joined him." Tayuya became irritated and furious. "Shut up, what the fuck do you know? She was my best friend, and that bastard killed her to get to me," she screamed. He startled Tayuya by saying, "And what if I told you that Kin was alive, and that she is currently at my estate?" "Why? You lie, I saw the body, don't play games with me." "I'm not lying, she was badly hurt after." Orochimaru ordered Dosu to place a seal on her, to transfer her soul to use for his Edo Tensei, Impure World Resurrection. "I merely saved her life and brought her to my estate," Naruto stated, throwing the tag seal in front of the girl. Orochimaru had deceived her, taken advantage of her, and was planning to use her best friend as a scapegoat, which infuriated Tayuya. She said, "Can I see her?" Naruto then materialized in front of her and extended his hand, which she slowly accepted before they both vanished in a whirl of black feathers. The estate of Naruto. When Naruto and Tayuya entered a bedroom, Tayuya noticed her friend with the black hair. "Kin. Tayuya." As friends squealed and gave each other hugs, Naruto turned away quickly to avoid getting a nosebleed because he blushed when he saw their breasts pressing against one another. "Tayuya, what are you doing here? I thought you were dead." "Me? I thought you were dead." Orochimaru lied to both of you. Both of them turned to Naruto. "I know about the invasion, and know what he's here for. Tayuya, I know you probably don't trust me enough, or hardly at all, but I need to know one thing," he said. Tayuya and Kin exchanged glances before turning back to face him. "What would you like to know?" they inquired, and Naruto smiled. "Where are the 4 sound meetings taking place?" "In a secluded area, few miles away from Konoha. We move out the day of the finals," replied Tayuya. "I see. Are you friends with any of them?" "God, no," she answered right away. "What are your plans?" Kin inquired, assuming she already knew the response. As he gained perspiration from both, he remarked, "The same thing I did to your teammates, only with style." "I wonder what he means. This guy should be okay because he is an SS rank genin, but still." "It's okay, girls, I got what I wanted." "Oh, and Tayuya, to get rid of the curse mark you have to kill the person who gave it to you, right?" "Yeah, but, I mean, I know you're strong but I don't think you can take on Orochimaru, she says, nodding slowly. Tayuya and Kin looked at him with wide eyes as he said, no worries, I'll kill him when the time comes. In the meantime I'm heading towards Uzushiogakure. My clan was known as Masters at Sealing. Maybe there's something in the ruins that can help me permanently destroy the mark. Why would you go so far for me? She replied. He said, I don't know, I don't think it matters, I just know it's the right thing to do, besides, I kinda like you too, which caused both girls to blush deeply. So what do you say, want to join the Namikaze clan? He replied. Tayuya gaped in shock that this boy would go to such lengths for her and her friend. He even offered them a place to stay. For the first time in many years, Tayuya looked him in the eyes and grinned. Kin was even taken aback. I accept your offer, Naruto. Sama, she said. If Tayuya stays, then so do I. I accept your offer, Naruto. Sama, Naruto said with a smile as he turned to face Kin. Now girls, there's no need for formalities, just Naruto will do, Naruto said with a simple smile. The two girls exchanged a smile and kissed each other on the cheeks, and he blushed and laughed sheepishly. He vanished in a whirl of black feathers after saying, well, I better go, got stuff to do, things to learn, certain bodyguards to kill, ciao. He's cute, tisk, who cares, I just can't wait to be free of that damn snake. Yeah, but you got to admit, he is the looker. Oh, don't begin. I noticed how you were staring at him. So what, he's strong, and of course I'm attracted to strong guys, said Tayuya, turning away after blushing. Kin remarked with a foolish smile, see, you just admitted it. Shut up, the forest beyond Konoha. Naruto had just told the cages where Orochimaru's guards were, and Hiruzen assigned him an S-rank mission because he knew that Naruto's ability to consume could give them the memories of his victims and that there was a chance Orochimaru himself might have been there. His goal was to kill Orochimaru's guards, eat them, and report back what they knew. Knowing that using chakra would instantly alert the Auto Nin, Naruto was using his bloodline to jump from tree to tree. He was using Hunter Pulse, and since he could see how far away they were, he chose to wait until nightfall before eliminating the final sound, or rather, 3. It was dark and rather deserted when nightfall arrived, so Naruto quickly spread biomass throughout his body and transformed into Dosu before entering the base. Using thermal vision to see through the darkness and Hunter Pulse to determine their location, he discovered an overweight, looking Auto Nin and turned to him, asking, Dosu? Why in hell are you here? He asked, but before he knew it, Naruto quickly approached him and cut off his head. Naruto waited for the curse mark to go away before devouring him, but Kurama informed him that even though he couldn't obtain it from Orochimaru, he could if he ate someone who did. Following his consumption, Naruto gripped his head. The intrigue web. Everything is falling into place. Once it's Sasuke's turn to fight, we'll initiate the invasion. You 4 set the barrier, make sure no one gets in, Sannin said. Orochimaru. Sama, hello. Before heading to their quarters, they all yelled. I wonder what Orochi Sama wanted with Tayuya. They asked, observing that Tayuya remained behind. Tisk, who gives a shit, we got our jobs, don't ask questions and do what you're supposed to do, said a teenager with 6 guns. A 2-headed boy said, yeah, why question Orochimaru? Sama, his orders are absolute. Whatever, the obese teenager said, memories end. The lights came on, Naruto relaxed his grip on his head, and he turned around to see the 2 Sound 4s still there along with a few operatives, Shunin, Jonin. What on earth did you do to Jirobo? The 2-headed one yelled. It doesn't matter, Sakin. The fat bastard's dead and Tayuya probably is too. Let's just kill his ass and get this over with, said the teenager with 6 guns. Amaterasu, was Naruto's whisper as his left eye started to bleed. Naruto appeared unfazed by the Chunin and Jonin charging weapons drawn, and Sakin looked up slightly to see his red eyes. His inner pupil resembled a buzz saw with a single dot in the middle, while his outer pupil took the shape of a blaze. Like chakram. The 4-armed teen activated his curse mark and said, don't know what the fuck was that, but know that your attack won't do good on us. Are you already cursing Kidomaru? Yukon, stop talking. Kumo Soka, spider web flower, he yelled, launching inward webs as he made quick hand gestures. Bishozen no Jutsu, coil of fire, Naruto exclaimed, releasing a surge of flames as he leapt to his feet and made quick hand gestures. Kidomaru and Sakin both ducked, and Naruto saw Sakin's claws pierce his chest and another sever his head. To Naruto's surprise, the second head took control and kicked him away. Sakin, you killed my brother, he said, shaking with anger. Naruto heard a poof after cracking his neck. Kyodaigumo, Kachiyose no Jutsu. Kitamaru yelled, and a gigantic tarantula emerged from the smoke. Oh, were those the summonses you received in that cave? The tarantula screamed and charged as Naruto spoke, indicating that the spider summonings had taken place in the cave nest. Naruto's arms changed into hammer fists, and he leapt up, dodging the pincers, and slammed a fist on its head, causing it to fly away. Yukon and Kitamaru were now watching for him to approach them. Oh, I see. I'll come to you if you won't come get me. As the base was collapsing, Naruto looked at the two dying forms and, once the curse mark vanished, he devoured them. As the roof collapsed, Naruto leapt and smashed the falling roof with his hammer fist, creating a hole big enough for him to escape. Charging biomass into his entire body, Naruto said. Kitamaru and Yukon were both beginning to perspire. Who knew what the blonde was planning? Sadly, they had no chance. As he sat on a tee watching the base collapse, Naruto sprouted his wings and flew back to the village. Once inside the Hokage Tower, he told the three Kages that he had adopted Kin and Tayuya into his clan and that he intended to go to the ruins of Uzushiogakure to find remains for sealing, as a way to remove the curse mark. Hiruzen and the Kages nodded and gave Naruto his payment and travel pass, and he walked up to the window, sprouted his wings, and took off. The exam finals are in 28 days. When Naruto flew across, he saw the ruins of his family home and became a little depressed. Naruto had rested a little before traveling and visited Inari and his family. He walked up to the shore and saw the whirlpools protecting the surrounding area. Naruto then entered each house and scavenged whatever he could find. He arrived at the shattered cage tower 8 hours later, and Naruto proceeded to the top, searching every room as he went. He discovered a safe, and he used his claws to pierce the lock and tear it off. He then discovered a large scroll, which he attempted to open but was unsuccessful at doing so. He then cut his hand with a kunai, causing the blood to spill onto the scroll, which glowed yellow and opened. Naruto took out a few blank scrolls and started copying them. He knew it would be quicker with the Sharingan, but he felt it would be better to have copies of the scroll. Exam finals are in just 24 days. With a heavy sigh, Naruto put down his pen and realized that he had finally finished copying the scroll. He wrapped the copies in his pouch and put the larger scroll around his back. He then went to his mother's former house and started studying, pausing occasionally to look at a tattered picture book that contained pictures of his mother, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and cousins. He smiled at the pictures, put the book in his bag, and carried on studying. In 5 hours, Naruto was able to alter his father's Keiyaku Fuin contract seal, so that, rather than taking away the summoner's influence over a person, he could destroy the mark's power without causing it to consume their life force. In other words, he would have changed the curse mark for those who had advanced to level 2 and transformed it into what Naruto refers to as the Dengen no Maku, mark of power, taking away Orochimaru's Hiki and substituting it with his own. Naruto was proud of himself, having devised a method to destroy the curse mark. The only issue now was practicing it. Exam finals are in 14 days. He was panting on the floor, and when he looked around, he saw that the entire room was covered in writing, on the walls, the ceiling, and the floor. Naruto grinned with relief that he had succeeded in mastering his modified Keiyaku Fuin, and he had made clones to write down everything he had written. When they were finished, they cleaned the house, removing all traces of his work except for the scrolls he had in his bag and pouch. Naruto took one final look at his mother's house before leaving, taking the remnants of the Uzumaki clan with him. The exam finals are in 12 days. Hiruzen, Anko, Samui, Kin, Tayuya, Mei, and A were standing in Naruto's basement. He had walked in and showed them everything about his clan, shown them the scrolls, the pictures, and finally the notes on the seal he created. Anko wanted to be the first to get her seal removed. He told her to remove her top, and, politely, asked the men to turn away. He made 50 hand signs, and called out Zen Keiyaku Fuin. Placing his palm on her neck, she bit her lip as she felt pain in her neck area. Black smoke began to burst out of the seal until there was nothing. The mark itself was gone. She opened her eyes, touched her neck, she felt nothing, the pain was gone. She turned to Naruto and began to cry hysterically. He knew what was coming, so he opened his arms and she tackled him. She was smothering him with kisses and was saying, "Thank you," over and over again. Kin and Tayuya were feeling a tad jealous. Karui was giggling herself at her future husband's predicament. Up next was Tayuya. She took off her top, showing perfect C cups, making Naruto get a nosebleed. "Like what you see," she grinned. She felt something strange, something pure, something stronger. She turned to Naruto and smirked. Before he knew it, she was kissing him full on the lips, surprising everyone. Naruto wiped the blood off his nose and started the same process with Tayuya. Eventually, The mark on her neck changed to resemble a tribal mark that resembled wings. Think the mark on the back of Mercer's sweater. Naruto thought, wow, she's great kiss. Oh my god, is that her tongue? As Tayuya started to French him. Ahem. As they parted, Tayuya licked her lips and Naruto was steaming from the head and flushed all over. The two other cages nodded as Hiruzen remarked, this is great Naruto, with your new seal we no longer have to worry about others gaining the curse mark. Well, since the seal was modified from my father's and since it surpasses it, I have to place it as a clan technique. Hope that's alright, Naruto replied. Hiruzen responded, receiving Naruto's signature smile, it's okay, Naruto. The Uzumaki clan were masters of Fuinjutsu, and since it's a sealing technique, you have every right to keep it. Do you think it's acceptable to add Tayuya and Kin to our shinobi ranks? I recently asked them to join my clan, he asked, and Hiruzen grinned as Tayuya and Kin gave him a look. Kin smiled, and Tayuya smirked while rubbing her nose with her finger. Any member of the Namikaze clan is more than welcome among our ranks. Stop by my office, I'll set up the documents, determine your rank and give you a leaf hite. 8, he said. He left 3 cages and 4 girls to argue among themselves. Well, then, guy, I have less than 2 weeks to train myself for the finals. Wait, let me rephrase that. Train myself for the invasion. Anybody needs me, I'll be in the training grounds out back, he said. Private training ground in Namikaze. As he made his way to the training area, Naruto started to think back on the events of the previous 3 weeks. He eventually made it to his family's destroyed home, where he effortlessly defeated Orochimaru's Sound 4, joined Konoha and his clan, and even saved Kin from certain death. He recalled everything as if it had happened yesterday. The intrigue web. When Naruto heard a scream while climbing the hospital's stairs, he used his hunter pulse to locate it. He discovered 2 people in a room at the end of the hallway, so he went outside and listened. Dosu W. What are you doing? A scared Kin asked. Dosu pulled out a paper tag and moved toward Kin, saying, I'm sorry for doing this, Kin, but it's Orochimaru. Sama's orders, please don't take this personally. Before Kin could move, a sharp whip wrapped around his neck and removed his head from his body. The blood splashed up, landing on the floor, the walls, the ceiling, and even on Kin. She sat on the floor, staring at the remains of her former teammate, when she saw red and black tendrils consuming him. She looked up to see her blonde savior. He approached her, and she retreated. When she struck the wall, she closed her eyes and waited for pain, which, amazingly, never materialized. She opened her eyes slowly to see him kneel in front of her and ask, are you okay? He said, do you want to stay with me? Kin nodded slowly, and Naruto glanced at the room before turning back to her. He questioned her. After giving Naruto a nod, he pulled her up, held her hand, and walked over to the intercom. She wondered what he was going to do, so he pressed the button. She considered the situation. Her current master could not care less about what happened to her. Her former teammate tried to put some strange seal on her, and her other deceased teammate had always mistreated her. The person on the intercom said, don't worry, we'll send someone to clean the sheets and whatnot. Yeah, it's a real mess in here. We got a body and there's blood everywhere, said Naruto. There was a pause before the man on the intercom started talking. What the fuck? Cookie, anyone who recognizes this illusion. Hint. It's from a video game, though I modified it slightly. As he put an arm around her, she blushed and they vanished in a whirl of black feathers. Naruto cut off communication and laughed his ass off, even though Kin was trying, and failing, not to laugh. Memories end. Naruto laughed at the man's response, managed to get outside, and entered his mindscape while assuming a meditative pose. The mindscape of Naruto, he had the opportunity to change the interior of his mind, which had previously appeared to be a sewer, to resemble the memories of a battlefield. Naruto crossed it, ignoring the corpses on the ground with their weapons protruding. Kurama's personal touch, he came across his gates, where he was completely visible and could see his 9 tails swirling around. Hey Kurama. So, are you prepared? Yup, let's do this. Just so you know, I will only be able to teach you how to use the Mangekyo's Kenjutsu because we have less than 2 weeks to train. I know it will take up the remaining 2 weeks, but don't worry, you'll probably end up training to master it after the invasion, so let's continue. As soon as Naruto entered the cage, Kurama reverted to his human form, which was a red-orange battle kimono and resembled an older Naruto except for the red shoulder length hair and demon-like features like ears, tails, claws, and sharp canines. Activate the Mangekyo when you're ready, said the man. With a nod, Naruto turned on his Mangekyo, saying, all set. Alright, the first method you must master is. Exam finals are just 1 day away. After 2 weeks of training with Kurama, Naruto occasionally practiced genjutsu with Kin and Tayuya. Samui also taught him some of her own kenjutsu techniques. Anko, on the other hand, was obviously falling more and more in love with the blonde after learning Naruto's method of torturing and questioning people. When it came to training, Kurama was a true sadist and very knowledgeable about the Mangekyo. The first ability Naruto was taught was a kenjutsu called Susanoo, which could be used for both offense and defense. It was dark blue in color and, of course, resembled a demonic skeleton, but what surprised him was that it was armored in some places. For example, it had a broken katana hilt, a demon-like helmet with horns, and a shoulder pad on both arms that curved upward like spikes. Yes, the Susanoo was incomplete, until Naruto had the Ain Mangekyo. Naruto's Susanoo resembles Nero's Devil Trigger, but she is more skeletal and is holding a katana hilt. It is blue because Sasuke has purple and Itachi has red, and I didn't use black because I use it for practically everything. The next one, a genjutsu named Tsukuyomi, was difficult for Naruto to activate. Tayuya offered to assist. After they entered the red zone, Naruto repeatedly tried to deactivate it but had to stop for a while because his right eye was bleeding. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, was easy for the third Naruto to use because he had already used it. The black flames were said to always hit their target, be as hot as the sun, and burn for many days and nights without simmering down. Naruto waited to train with the others because he didn't need to practice activating it. The fourth was Kamui, which Naruto thought was cool because it could rip a hole in time and suck things up to another dimension. Naruto used it once before both of his eyes started to bleed, and he left the training area in the hopes of finding an animal to eat to help him see again. Yasaka Magatama, the fifth ability, could only be used while in Susanoo, so Naruto had to forego using it. Thus, Kurama trained Naruto to use his Izanami for the remaining days, since the ability is a self-repeating kenjutsu. It traps its victim in a recurring cycle of events. Even if the victim is aware of the process, they are powerless to stop or break free from the progression, and while under the influence of Izanami, the target will remain still as the cycle of events replays in their mind. Although Naruto was on the verge of perfecting it, he was lacking something. The only question was what. According to what Sasuke told him, Itachi and the masked man who had ruled Kurama 13 years prior both possessed the Mangekyo. Naruto knew that the masked man was likely still pursuing Kurama, so he was out of the question, and Itachi was a nuke nin, so both possibilities were out of the question. Naruto had to figure it out for himself. In the interim, Naruto purchased books about katas and his bloodline, including the whip and cat claw weapons. Since he had picked up some jutsu from the people he had eaten, he also wanted to work on it. Currently on his list were Flame Bullet, Enden Yuha Sho, Palm of the Tearing Breast, the Vacuum Blade Shinkujin and Shinkagyoku, Bullets in a Vacuum. After learning that Enden and Yuha Sho would have to wait for the others, Naruto sighed and undressed before going to the shower. He opened the door and entered, and as soon as he pulled back the curtain, he saw a nude Tayuya. He had a severe nosebleed and turned away, saying, "Sorry, the door was open and I thought No was using it." Tayuya looked at him, examining his muscles and looking at every part of his body. She noticed that he was not wearing a towel, and the size of what was hanging made her lustful. Tayuya-chan, what are you doing?" she said, swaying over to him. All of the noise was heard by Anko, Karui, and Kin, who were downstairs. Anko was beaming like the Cheshire Cat. Karui was blushing and perspiring, and Kin was completely covered in neon blush and bleeding from the nose. "I told you they did, now pay up girls," Anko replied. Having moaned, Karui and Kin gave Anko 50 ryo and went to Naruto's bedroom. Naruto and Tayuya had just gotten out and were extremely exhausted. He saw that Karui, Anko, and Kin were also lying there, so he chose not to question it and immediately fell asleep. Tayuya also fell asleep and cuddled up to him, but before she did, she felt something inside of her and put a hand on her stomach before ignoring it and going to sleep with the others. When the other girls were already awake, Naruto woke up and saw Tayuya lying beside him. He kissed Tayuya and got out of bed. After a brief shower, he changed into the outfit he had on when he fought at the Kiri Bridge. A black shirt with red flames at the bottom, black combat boots, black style ambu pants, a black overcoat that was open and had chains around the neck, and black fingerless gloves. When Naruto came downstairs, he saw his future brides preparing breakfast. He ate it quickly, told them he would see them at the arena, and kissed each of them on the lips. Kin, who wasn't used to it, blushed all over and steam rose from his head. Naruto spread his wings and flew away as soon as he was outside. The arena, the judges occupied one side of the crowded viewing stands, while the shinobi, primarily Chunin and Jonin, occupied the opposite side. The villagers and any genin shinobi were gathered in the center. The cage booth, with Hiruzen, Mei, and the cage in it, was at the top. Neji, Gaara, Shikamaru, Tamari, Kankuro, and Shino were waiting for the Hokage to make his announcement in the arena. Tenten, Sakura, Ino, Kiba, Hinata, Choji, Samui, Yugito, and Fu were also waiting up in the stands. Do you know where Naruto and Sasuke are? Where is everyone? Not only is Sai absent, but Kakashi Sensei is also not present. I asked myself, Sakura said. Ino said, hey forehead, you know where Sasuke is? She answered, no, I haven't seen him since the preliminaries. Kiba exclaimed, hey that blonde kid ain't there either. Choji, who was eating his barbecue chips, said, yeah. Munch. You're right, Munch. Hey guys, who do you think would win, the blonde kid or the redhead from Suna? Kiba asked after giving it some thought. What do you mean by that, Kiba? Are you saying that Sasuke-kun will lose to that psycho? Said a furious Ino. Well, he was close to killing Lee if Sensei hadn't stopped him, replied Tenten. And what he did to those nin in the Forest of Death, sheesh. I'd be amazed if Sasuke came out without a scratch, replied Kiba. At that point, Hiruzen approached and gave a speech about how they had all made it this far. A Jonin by the name of Genma then arrived to declare the fights. Hey, where Hayate? Shikamaru inquired. Genma put a senbon in his mouth idly and said, he's dead, we found his body 2 days ago when he was sent to spy on someone. Shikamaru and Shino gave a little gasp. He said, now, everyone but Neji Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, please leave the arena and head to the combatant stands. They all departed, leaving Neji by himself. Some were whispering to one another that the Kyuubi wasn't a Namikaze, while others claimed that he fled. Neji boastfully remarked, I see, he ran away, must have been fate that declared me the victor. Everyone was looking around when he said those words, and Fu saw someone plummeting from the sky in a nosedive. They saw black feathers falling from the sky. As she pointed up, everyone turned to see a boy with blonde hair take a nosedive. He was about to hit the ground when he flipped and landed on his feet, sending Neji reeling back and everyone back in their seats as he created a medium-sized shockwave and crate. Yo, am I late? The blonde asked Genma as he slowly stood up. No, you're on time, Are both contendants ready? Genma said, letting his senbon drop from his lips. They nodded to Genma as Neji activated his Byakugan and Naruto flared his Sharingan and cracked his knuckles. He shouted, moving aside, first match. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze vs Neji Hyuga. Ready, Hajime. Neji assumed the Juken stance after thinking, I shouldn't take him lightly because of what he did to that Auto Nin in the preliminary round. Naruto charged at him after he saw him assume a street brawler stance. What's he doing? His stance is full of holes. I could easily take him, Neji thought as he dodged a right hook. Neji continued to dodge while Naruto continued to throw punches. A bewildered Kureina exclaimed, what's he doing? That stance is full of holes, it's like he wants to get hit. Asuma smoked and said, who knows, after what we saw at the preliminaries, he must be plotting something. When Neji had had enough, he phased Naruto by sending a palm at his chest, asking, what? He pondered. He turned around and sent another palm strike when he noticed Naruto with his Byakugan behind him, but he blocked it and sent his own palm strike instead, which sent Neji halfway across the arena. I think my ribs cracked, he said as he stood up, clutching his chest. People were looking at Naruto, and those who were aware of his abilities were concerned about how badly he would harm Neji. The civilians believed the Kyuubi was losing control right away. Kaden. Bakuhatsu Kan Shato, exploding flame shot, was the first hand signal Naruto made. He then snapped his fingers, causing sparks to fly from his hands, and released several balls of flame. As the fireballs struck and exploded, Neji ducked. It's a real jutsu. I had to Google it to find the official name because there isn't one. Neji threw some shuriken and some kunai with exploding tags. Naruto sent biomass to his legs and leapt into the air. He made more hand signs and stomped on the ground with an axe kick. Kaden. Keshi Makugan Hara, exploding flame crater. Neji saw a crack appear and made its way to him. He looked at it with his Byakugan and saw that the earth was heating up dangerously. Neji started to spin around. Hakesho Kaden, 8 trigrams palm revolving heaven, he yelled, creating a swirling charka barrier that startled the Hyuga clan up in the stands. Naruto clapped his hands, and the earth beneath erupted in a fiery explosion. It was fortunate that Neji used Kaden. Otherwise, he would have been destroyed and Naruto would have betrayed his pledge to Hinata. Neji stopped spinning as the flames subsided and he saw Naruto's fist strike his face. Naruto started to approach him slowly after he was sent flying and embedded in the wall. Neji attempted to remove himself from the wall, but he was able to do so by pulling himself off with an outstretched arm. "You're within my range of division," was Neji's well-known statement that further stunned the Hyuga. Neji was startled when Naruto grabbed his wrist and turned his arm into a hammer fist, ready to crush him. Neji closed his eyes and waited for pain as Naruto followed his movements and avoided each blow. When he opened them, he saw Genma and Naruto standing in the center of the arena. Genma shouted as she leapt away, "First match, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze vs Neji Hyuga. Ready, Hajime." "Hold on, what just occurred? Was that a genjutsu? That didn't happen, did it?" Naruto's charge at him snapped him out of his reverie. "Repeat battle. You're within my range of division." Neji was startled when Naruto grabbed his wrist and turned his arm into a hammer fist, ready to crush him. Neji closed his eyes and waited for pain as Naruto followed his movements and avoided each blow. When he finally opened them, he discovered Naruto and Genma standing in the middle of the arena. "What the devil is happening?" Neji pondered. "Repeat procedure." Neji shut his eyes and waited for pain, but this time it came. Naruto's fist returned to its usual form and slammed it into his face. Neji rose from the ground and shouted, "What the hell was that?" to get everyone's attention. Naruto remarked, "You fell for it. What? Haven't you noticed? Instead of following my movements you were staring into my Sharingan. You fell for my Izanami." "It's not complete yet so I could only repeat chain of events twice," he replied. "Huh? Izanami puts a victim in an unbreakable loop of events that repeats itself. Despite the victim being aware of the process, you can't alter or escape it, and while the events take place in your mind, it leaves you standing perfectly still for any incoming attacks," Naruto said, shocking everyone in the arena. Neji glared at Hinata in the stands and said, "Tell me Neji, why did you try to kill Hinata? She told about your hatred for the main branch, why is that?" He then turned to Naruto and explained the story of his father, how he was marked with the caged bird seal and traded for execution rather than the current clan head, Heishi. When Heishi finished explaining, he looked down in dismay, thinking that his brother would still be alive if he hadn't agreed to the trade. He tried to see the bright side, saying that Konoha avoided war with Kumo and that the council's will, oh for fuck's sake, was the worst thing he had done, along with threatening to brand Hinata with caged bird seal. The previous cage was the one who gave the order to kidnap, and the Raikage was no different. "Do you want me to get rid of the seal?" Naruto asked, looking at Neji, who averted his gaze in the hopes that he wouldn't fall for his Izanami again. With wide eyes and trouble breathing, Neji watched Naruto approach him while displaying 50 hand signals. He took off Neji's Hite.8 and pressed his palm against the seal, saying, "Zen Keiyaku Fuin." The burning sensation caused Neji to bite his lips. 10 seconds later, the mark changed to ink and began to drip down his face. The blonde's meddling in clan affairs infuriated the Hyuga elders. After touching the ink, Neji turned to face Naruto, but he bumped into him and struck him with a fist, knocking him out cold. "That was for trying to kill Hinata-chan," he replied. Genma exclaimed, "Shosha, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, instead." They all looked on in shock, knowing that Naruto had the best chance of winning, but he was only playing with Neji. Kiba joked, "Whoa. The Hyuga elders are going to be furious." "Yeah, the move Izanami seems pretty powerful and he said it was incomplete," Ino replied. The others were only able to nod. "Wow, Naruto-kun is truly amazing. I can't stop saying that," Sakura shouted in her head. "Maybe cause you like him. Duh, unlike the Uchiha, he actually pays attention to you," she thought to herself. Sakura reflected that Naruto had been her childhood friend and had always given her attention. She recalled that he had saved her life in the Forest of Death, so perhaps she was truly smitten with the blonde with the whiskers. With a sigh of relief, Hinata said, "Arigato, Naruto-kun." Naruto had fulfilled her promise to refrain from spreading false information about Neji throughout the arena, and he had also removed his CBS, caged bird seal. According to Yugito, Kurama's host didn't even struggle against the Hyuga. Matabi sent pheromones to her host because she is a lustful two-tailed cat. She initially believed she was going into heat, but this was not the case. She did have feelings for the blonde, but she was too obstinate to acknowledge it. "What are you doing, Matabi?" as the two-tailed cat put it, "giving you what you want." She was going to use the restroom to relieve herself when she noticed Karui standing beside her. "Damn it. Naru-kun put up quite the fight, didn't he?" she said, and Yugito avoided looking at him because she didn't want to ruin her older sister's engagement to him. Yugito turned to her with an atomic blush when she said, "You know Naru.kun is under CRA. If you want I could introduce him to you." When Karui saw her expression and realized Matabi was back at it, she sighed and turned to face Samui. "If you want I could introduce Naruto.kun to you as well Samui," she said, simply looking at Karui with an atomic blush that was very similar to Yugito's. Karui just let out another sigh and followed Yugito to the restroom. She was sitting there smiling foolishly. "Fu. He's really strong, he. I don't give a damn what you think, Shomei. He's mine." Apparently, Shomei was very protective of her host, she told her tenant. "Fu, we've been over this. Hey, you always scare other guys away by making me flare your chakra. This guy is also a Jinchuriki so he won't be scared of us." Sigh. "Fine, do what you want larva." To herself, Fu smiled. The estate of Naruto, a worried kin said, to Yuya, "Are you okay in there?" "Why? Yeah, I'm fine, you go on a." Blurk, she threw up. "You sure? I could get you something?" She threw up again, saying, "I'm fine, just go to the arena." Blurk. Before departing, she said, "All right, then we'll see you after the invasion." Her words were, "Try not to get yourselves killed." Blurk, again. The arena Hiruzen was exceptional. Naruto managed to avoid killing another Leaf Nin, and he prevailed by employing at least Jonin level strategies. He and the other cages shared the same sentiments, but one cage licked his lips behind his curtain mask, expressing his growing desire for Naruto's power. After glancing at Neji as the medics carried him away, Naruto jumped on the wall, shrugged, and ran up to the contenders' stands. The moment he arrived, he leaned against a wall and gazed out into the arena. Tamari eyed him, hoping he wouldn't do anything serious during the invasion, and Shikamaru gave him a curious look. Kankuro wasn't sure if he should be more afraid of his psychotic brother or the blonde monster. With a sadistic grin on his face, Gaara turned to Naruto and gripped his head, thinking, "Mother, I understand. If he scares you so much, I'll get rid of him. You want his blood, right? I'll give it to you." Gaara winced and turned away as he gazed at him, his eyes glowing yellow. Match 2. Sasuke Uchiha vs Sabaku no Gaara. Please make your way to the arena. Sasuke was nowhere to be seen when Gaara shunshined to the arena. The cage stand, Hokage. "Sama, Uchiha Sasuke hasn't arrived yet, what should we do?" Hiruzen said in an anbu. He declared, "Disqualify him, we can't show favoritism, but Orochimaru would not have it that way." Now Hokage. "Sama, why not postpone the fight? I've been dying to see the match between Uchiha Sama and my son," said the snake. "Got you, Orochimaru. The cage never calls Gaara his son," said Hiruzen with a sly smile. "Very well cage. Sama, I'll let him fight, however he won't be able to advance to Chunin rank." "Excellent," Orochimaru grinned under his curtain mask. Genma was notified by the Anbu, who leapt down to the arena. "All right. Sabaku no Kankuro and Shino Aburame, please come down to the arena as the match between Sasuke Uchiha and Sabaku no Gaara has been postponed." Proctor.Sanai forfeit, and can let them know about Crow's abilities just yet. Fine, on to the next match. Can Sabaku no Damari and Shikamaru Nara please come down to the arena? He raised his hand and said, troublesome, maybe I should quit as well." As the Spartan kicked him off the railing, Naruto remarked, "Oh no, you don't, take it like a man." While Tamari flew down on her fan, Shikamaru hilariously landed flat on his face, sporting an X-shaped bandage. "Troublesome blonde," he said. Next match. Shikamaru Nara vs Sabaku no Damari. Are both candidates prepared? Hajime? In. Fight as canon does. Naruto uttered the words, "What the hell? Why'd he quit? He had it won. Lazy ass." Gaara shunshined to the arena again as soon as they left, and 10 minutes later, Naruto dropped down to the arena, knowing that he would be disqualified and forced to fight Gaara if he didn't show up within the next 5 seconds. Naruto smirked as Sasuke and Kakashi appeared in a swirl of leaves, and he grew his wings and flew back to the stands. "And you are? Uchiha Sasuke. Hey, aren't we on time?" Kakashi inquired. "Very, we've postponed once and waited an additional 10 minutes. Sasuke will no longer be able to advance to Chunin but will still be able to compete." Sasuke nodded while fuming. "All right, Sasuke Uchiha vs Sabaku no Gaara is the next match. Hajime, get ready." Entry to the arena. "Oh, it's you," with Lee on crutches beside him, Guy said in his good guy pose. "Yes, we're here to watch the youthful fights." "Right, go right in, hold on." Who won Neji's match? Lee inquired. The Hyuga lost, badly. That blonde kid hardly put up a fight, was said by Chunin, who looked at each other and then back at them, shocking Guy and his mini.me. I see, he thought to himself, pumping his fist, looks like I have a new rival. Guy gave him a look and said, Lee, you're a great kid, before entering. I know I'm lazy, but fight like cannon. Lighting started to charge in Sasuke's hand as he was making hand signals, and he rushed forward to meet Gaara, who was now in his sand dome. Both of Gaara's siblings were shell-shocked when Sasuke screamed, Chidori, 1,000 birds. No one had ever managed to penetrate Gaara's sand defense, much less cause him to bleed. Is this blood? What is this? My blood is here? Gaara's sand started to fall off, leaving him clutching his bleeding right arm as he screamed, and Sasuke shivered as he peered inside the hole he had punctured and saw what he believed to be a monster. Orochimaru thought, now's the time, and he signaled Kabuto to begin the invasion. In a matter of seconds, the arena was covered in white feathers. Sasuke, Naruto, and Kakashi activated their Sharingan, and all of the shinobi made the hand sign, Kai, release. Before they knew it, Otto and Suna ninjas started attacking the shinobi, and Orochimaru grabbed Hiruzen and fled to the roof, with Ain Mei in tow. Kakashi and Guy were fending off Otto ninjas when the Scarecrow saw Gaara and his siblings leaving, and Sasuke trailing them. He was about to tell Naruto to help, but he saw 2 Kumo nin and 1 Taki nin already following them. Sakura. Are they allies? I can't be sure. Go after Gaara and help Sasuke, you and the others, he commanded. But sensei, there is no time to argue, go now, as this is an A-rank mission. He gave the order to stab Asuna nin in the skull. Hello. She took off with the other 9 rookies. HMPH, this is where the fun begins, grinned Naruto. To whoever correctly guesses the reference, a cookie. Taste the blood from Devil May Cry 3 Ost. Naruto jumped down to the arena, and sent biomass to his hands, shifting them into claws. He charged in and began hacking and slashing any Otto and Suna nin that were unlucky to be within his range of attack. Naruto didn't know about everyone else, but he was having a wonderful time. Asuna nin attempted to stab him. He just grabbed the poor sap by the head, injected him with biomass and threw him behind a couple feet, blowing up and taking other Otto, Suna nin with him. Naruto grabbed an unsuspecting Otto nin who didn't even notice him since he was fighting. Naruto grabbed his head, dug his claws through his back and tore out his spine with the guy's skull still attached. Naruto shifted his arms back to normal and started beating enemy nins using the spinal cord as a whip club. Enemy nins began to shift their attention to Naruto, and began charging him. Naruto discarded the spine club and shifted his arms to the hammer fist. He began to crush nin, but because of the hammer fist being a heavy weapon it slowed down his current speed. Though Naruto crushed a few, they began to gain up on him. Some of the Konoha shinobi turned the other cheek, since they still had hatred for the Kyuubi. The kunai repeatedly pierced Naruto's skin until he felt something familiar, like what had happened 4 years prior, and he snapped. Naruto unleashed a powerful repulse, sending all of the enemy shinobi flying, with the few that survived having their necks cracked or their heads crushed. The ones that survived looked at him. He was wearing a fully body black demon. Like armor, his claws were sharper and more clear, and he had spikes on his upper arms. Prototype. Armor and Prototype 2. Fully upgraded claws. After glancing at them, Naruto flexed his claws and said, "Come at me, bro," with a demonic voice, he said. They had no chance at all. After experiencing a tremor, Naruto turned to face the village walls and saw a gigantic 3-headed snake slicing through the city. He grinned and charged at the snake, eliminating any Otto and Suna nin that stood in his way. On rooftops. Hello sensei. As Orochimaru ripped the skin from his face, Hiruzen remarked, "Good to see you too, Orochimaru." When the snake Sanin saw the Mizu and Reikage approaching, he pressed the sound 4 to activate the barrier, but regrettably, they never did. Where on earth are they? Looking for your bodyguards, Orochimaru. Naruto disposed of them 2 weeks ago. We know all about your plans to make the barrier and use Edo Tensei. It's not going to work, he said, smirking at Hiruzen. Orochimaru became enraged and was about to cut Hiruzen's throat when a kunai struck him and bounced off, at which point he noticed that Mei and A were present. You didn't think I had a backup plan, did you? Orochimaru smirked as he leapt back and flashed Edo Tensei's hand signs. 3 Otto nins died and had their souls transferred somewhere in the village. Edo Tensei, Impure World Resurrection. Shocked Hiruzen and the cages, who weren't prepared for this. 2 coffins containing the kanji for 1 and 2, followed by a third with the kanji for 4. Hiruzen instantly spammed shuriken to ensure he didn't bring the fourth back, but he was a bit too late. Tobirama, what's happening? How am I supposed to know? That you, Hiruzen? A certain blonde said, Gigi, look at you, you're still as old as you were when I died, wait, how am I alive? You three, get out of there, I shouted. Hashirama and Tobirama were not as fortunate as Minato, who instantly leapt away to avoid the special kunai that Orochimaru had thrown at him. Minato said, thanks for that, don't mention it, now let's kick some ass, like the good old days. Yup, let's do this, he said, taking out his three-pronged kunai. Minato asked gravely, I just want to know one thing, Hiruzen. Ask away, he said, removing his robes to reveal his battle armor and forming a stance with Mei. What's up with my boy? He said with a smile. Everyone, even the subdued Cage, gave a face vol. Now that you're asking this, Hiruzen essentially screamed. They all heard something in the distance after he said, well yeah, once Orochimaru's dead I'm gone too, you know. Certainly, come get some. They heard the distant cries of the enemy and turned to see a black speck slicing one of the three snakes' heads, as well as an explosion and what appeared to be black tendrils shooting out. Orochimaru used this opportunity to slip into Shunshin. As the first and second Hokage charged, Minato exclaimed, crap, he's gone. The forest Gaara was more of a sand monster than a human, and he was about to kill Sasuke when he was interrupted by a stream of flames. Gaara turned to face Yugito, Fu, and Karabi, Killer B, and B said, damn, when you beat him already, don't need to kill him. Sasuke was currently wearing his curse mark and was kneeling on a tree branch, breathing heavily. Shukaku was officially in Gaara's eyes. Kakeke, come on, help me prove my existence. He shouted and charged without thinking, not realizing that Karabi, Fu, and Yugito were all going into one-tailed state. The music stops. Play swipe of the sword in Devil May Cry 4. Gates to the village while avoiding the now two-headed snake. Otto and Suna Nin decided it would be a good idea to assist Orochimaru's summon, but they were choked by Naruto's Wifist and had their heads torn off. Naruto jumped 50 feet in the air, landed on the bleeding neck of the sliced-off head, and then pounced on the first left head, slicing it off and using its neck as a board to jump to a rooftop. AN. Prototype 2. Claw's helicopter finisher. When Naruto dropped his guard, the snake curled up to avoid more damage, or at least until he revealed his Mangekyo Sharingan and shifted his arms back to normal. He whispered, Amaterasu, hitting the enemy ninjas with black flames before he reverted to his three tomes and leapt up, avoiding a blow from the snake. Before the snake could disappear, he sunk his claws into its head and sent ground spikes shooting up, piercing its body. Power flowed through his body as debris started to float in the air, and Naruto let out a small repulse as his right arm changed into the Wifist. It was darker, more reinforced, and far sharper than the tendrils. The Otto Nin couldn't stand it any longer, and the Suna Nin stopped and gave up shortly after he had vanquished the giant snake. Naruto reasoned that Orochi Teme must have called forth the Edo Cages. Naruto ate Tobirama before he could react. Naruto felt much stronger than he had before he consumed the Edo Cage, so he tested his power by trying to form a small, think Rasengan-sized orb of water in his hand. Since the Nidaime could form water out of almost nothing, Naruto figured he would have to practice before deciding to use the Nidaime's abilities in battle. Then, he saw an Anbu in the trees and narrowed his eyes. It was a root Anbu, and it leapt away, with Naruto hot on its heels. The forest Yugito was in her two-tailed chakra form, Shukaku was rampaging, Fu was in her three-tailed chakra form, and Karabi was in his second form. He's not letting us get any closer, Fu replied. Okay, here's the plan. Me and Karabi will act as decoys. You circle around him and wake the red head up, said Yugito. Alright, let's do this, we'll take option B, Yugito shouted. Stand still, damn it, was Shukaku's cry, and he sent sand and air blasts in their direction. Shukaku was about to fire another air bullet when Karabi started charging with a Bijudama, tailed beast blast. When he was struck by a Gokakyu, grand fireball, which turned some of his sand body into glass. Shukaku threw a fit and started talking about insects running around and not staying still, but as his body weakened, he noticed Fu preparing another fist and exclaimed, damn it, die already. When it screamed, it launched sand at her, which she ducked and leapt off its head. Karabi hit Shukaku with his Bijudama, causing it to stagger back. Yugito grabbed Fu and threw her back toward its head, and her fist struck Gaara's face, negating his Tanuki Niri Jutsu. Feigning sleep technique, they returned to normal and carried the unconscious Gaara back to Konoha, while Sakura and Hinata, in contrast to the others, stayed behind to repel Auto Nin. Rooftops after Minato's Rasengan sent Tobirama flying. Minato, Hiruzen, Mei, and A were avoiding Hashirama's Jukai Koden, nativity of a world of trees. Alright, here's what we're gonna do. A, you crush the trees with Jiraken Dorapu, guillotine drop. Mei, use your Kiri, mist technique. When A makes the opening, that should force them to retreat. Hiruzen, you and me are offense the moment the dodge, we get them, Minato said while hiding behind the trees. Tobirama was about to launch another wave when A leapt out of the way and a cloud of mist rushed out of the opening towards both cages. They immediately jumped. Hashirama was hit by a point-blank Karyudan, fire dragon bullet, and in a yellow flash Minato appeared in front of him and shoved a Rasengan in his chest. They nodded to him, and A leapt into the air and dropped a lightning-enhanced drop kick, knocking out trees that were in his path. Music end. As they touched down, Minato said, "Wow, that's great teamwork." Mei said, "Yeah, well played." A remarked, "Just like old times, huh?" Turning to face the village, he said, "Yeah, now we gotta help everyone else." He saw that the Konoha Nins had ceased fighting. Some Suna Nins had given up, and the majority of the Auto Nins were fleeing. "I wonder what's happening?" Minato inquired. "It looks like we won," Hiruzen said. "Yes, but do you not think that our shinobi might pursue the fleeing ninjas before they depart the village?" he inquired. "Good point. Let's check it out." As they moved through the village, the Konoha forces saw Minato and almost had heart attacks. As they approached the gates, they saw that the number of bodies was increasing and that more corpses were being discovered in the most horrifying ways. The remnants of the giant snake summon were visible when they got there. "Naruto is really sadistic, don't you think?" Hiruzen said. "Oh, did Naruto do this?" Minato inquired. "Yes, we have personally seen his work, and we are certain that this was his doing. But I wonder where he is." Root Headquarters, one Root member said, "Oh good, you're back. Did you get the Namikaze's intel?" He replied, pointing to a folder, "Got it right here." "Alright, I'll let Danzo.Sam. URK know." The Root member's arm returned to normal and proceeded through the base, saying, "That won't be necessary," as his claws dug through the other's chest. The Root base was like a maze, with more corridors around every corner. Naruto was walking down the dark hallways. He hasn't yet seen any other members. He really wanted to burst a hole downwards to get by more quickly, but that would alert the entire base, and as much as he wanted to hack and slash everyone who came at him, he forced himself to use the cloak and dagger tactic. The office of Danzo, a Root official said, "Sir, he's in." "All right, let him come," Danzo said. "Are you certain about this, Danzo?" a council member said. The civilian council gasped as he said, "I'm sure, once he's in here, he'll come to me. He won't bother with the rest of you. My Root will spring out and detain him. If all else fails, I'll fight him myself." "Danzo, be reasonable. The demon will slaughter you. He's too dull. He will be unable to touch me in any way." There were sighs of relief as he said, "I have my own secrets that will help me defeat the Kyuubi." "I must thank you, Shisui," Danzo said, grinning and gripping his arm. "You and your clan's eyes are going to prove most helpful in detaining my weapon." Level 2. After a while, Naruto came upon doors in the hallways. Since Danzo had nowhere else to go, he took a small detour and opened the first one, finding a room with a baby in its crib affixed to some machinery. He read the tag. Topic number 7093. Name at birth: Yuki Saotome. Place of birth: Konohagakure. Mokuton, wood release. Transplant. Danzo was abducting children and using them for experiments, and Naruto sneered as he saw the glass tube attached to the machine and walked up to examine it. He could only surmise that the subject number was not random. The genetic code of Hashirama, knowing that this was the first Hokage's genes and that they were going to be transplanted into the child. Naruto carefully removed the needle from the baby, detached the tubing from the machine, took off his coat, and wrapped the child in it. He then created a shadow clone and had it take the child to the hospital. As he stared at the tubing, his mind clicked and he developed a shit-eating grin. He opened the tube, dipped his hand in it, and felt his DNA change and hold onto his body, much like when he consumed Hiroko for his Maiden, dark release. After stopping his spamming and taking a deep breath, Naruto shrugged, changed back into a Root member, and walked out of the room. He should have the Mokuton bloodline by now, but since he just got it, he doesn't know a jutsu to check. After searching every room because he believed Danzo had more kidnapped infants nearby, Naruto reached the last door and attempted to open it, only to discover it was locked. After rolling his eyes and letting out a loud sigh, Naruto punched a hole in the door and ripped it open, revealing a number of scrolls on kenjutsu and jutsu techniques, various weapons, and test tubes filled with a fluid that was similar to the Mokuton. I'm so grateful that they didn't inform me that it was my birthday. I'm winning. He made a little army of clones and made them clear the room, holding the test tubes and examining the label while they worked. Ice release, Hyaton Yoton, release of lava. Crystal release, or Shoten Enten, releasing blaze. As he drank the two liquids and waited for pain, he grinned savagely and said, "Wait, I suppose Danzo couldn't transplant these into his current root, so he decided to kidnap babies that had the bloodline to create a breeding factor and add the children to his root. Tisk. Wow Danzo, that's low. All the more reason for me to kill you." The office of Danzo, one of the council members, remarked, "The Kyuubi sure is taking his time, isn't he?" Danzo was drinking a cup of tea when a root leapt from the ceiling and said, "Danzo Sama, it looks like the Kyuubi has broken into the armory and taken 5 of our bloodlines, sir." Danzo spat it out. "What? Which ones?" "Hyaton, Yoton, Enten, Shoten, and Mokaton." Danzo was furious because he believed that the Mokaton was one of the 3 items that could contain a Biju, along with the Mangekyo Sharingan and the chakra chains. He smugly claimed that he still had a chance to regain those bloodlines, saying, "Get those bloodlines back, he can't use them unless it's within a person." This is untrue, by the way. "Hello," he said as he vanished into the darkness. Damn that Namikaze, Naruto is back. When Naruto stopped spamming, a katana was held at his throat, and the room was crowded with rude employees. Naruto simply grinned sadistically and said, "This is where the fun begins." His clones had just finished emptying the storage, so he used sealing scrolls he found around the room and had them take off to their compound. "I will never be taken alive by you," Naruto yelled, grabbing the katana and kicking the root away. They all charged Naruto. He shifted his arm to the whiffest and began lashing away, splitting root in half. He grabbed one and used him as a meat shield while they all tried to hit him with all kinds of weapons and jutsu. Naruto used Kawarimi to swap with another root. He walked to the exit, then turned around and whistled, catching their attention. Naruto shifted his arms into the tendrils. "Sayonara." With a smile on his face, Naruto saw that one of the ops was still alive and reaching for something on the wall, so he read it. Alarm. He shot both arms, catching 2 roots in his black hole technique, shooting more tendrils, and killing the remaining ops. He ran out of the room, saying, "Aw shit, it's about to get loud," as the root pressed it before dying. The office of Danzo, the code red alarm was heard by all. "Danzo. What's going on?" Danzo ordered his root squad to leave the office, saying, "God damn it. Root, half of you get the council out of here. The rest of you with me." Naruto is back. "So much for stealth," declared Naruto, who dodged katana swipes and used a sweep kick to knock several roots off their feet and split them horizontally with his whiffist. He shifted his arms to claws and ran down the corridor, seemingly encountering more roots at every turn and becoming increasingly irritated. As he chopped up a root, he activated his hunter pulse and saw Danzo in a distant room that appeared to be fairly open and spaced. Biomass engulfed Naruto, who then switched into his Amor mode, ran at a wall and crashed through it. Think Gears of War, Berserker Rush. Naruto broke through the wall after a lot of wall crashing and found himself in a large room with a large suspension bridge and pipes on the walls. Anime. Root chambers. Now that he was back to normal, Naruto turned to face the bridge and took a few steps until the doors at the end opened, letting Danzo and roughly 20 dozen root ops out. He saw the root following him through the walls with his arms moved to the tendrils, which he attached to the wall to block them off. "Whoa, I had assumed you would flee like the others. Where have the council members fled to?" Naruto inquired. "He must have acquired my root's memories," Danzo said icily. "You're too late. They've already been evacuated, it's just us." "Well, that's unfortunate. Oh well, looks like I'll just vent my frustration on all of you guys. Now Namikaze-san, there's no need for violence, can't we discuss this?" the root said in a stance. Hee. Naruto started laughing maniacally. Danzo became irritated and asked, "What's so funny?" "I don't know what's fucking funnier, the fact that you actually want to try to negotiate with me, or the fact that you're trying to control me by influencing my thoughts. I may not know what you're hiding, but I bet it has something to do with those transplants you've had on your body," said the man. "Why isn't it working?" Danzo asked him, staring. "He has them too," exclaimed Danzo in his mind as Naruto lifted his head to reveal his Mangekyo Sharingan. Before charging, Naruto reformed the claws and slammed them against one another, generating sparks. Mortal Kombat. Freddy Krueger entrance, I believe. Play. Meta Ridley vs SSBB Ost. Naruto sent Biomass to his legs and pounced on the first root, slicing his throat as the others started to make hand signs. He then proceeded to add wind chakra to his claws and cut through katanas as they approached. He quickly changed his arms into shields and blocked some Kaden and Doden jutsu. Naruto leapt up, reformed his wifist, and let it fly towards a root, making hand signs. At the moment of impact, biomass entered his body and exploded, impaling a nearby root. As he jumped back and avoided an oncoming Kaden jutsu, he noticed Danzo staring at him and thought, what's he planning? He was interrupted because he had to dodge a katana swipe and kick the root, shooting him directly at an incoming squad. He quickly made the hand signals, Bishozen, which sent a wave of flames. Naruto grew his wings and flew off the bridge, flying to the side of it and whiplashed the bridge, splitting it in two. An. Prototype 2. Wifist helicopter finisher. Half of the roots fell into the abyss, while the intelligent ones managed to hold onto the bridge with chakra. After flying back onto the bridge, Naruto sent biomass all over his body after stomping the ground and sending all the roots skyward. Tendrils exploded from his body, impaling each one before he consumed their biomass and withdrew back into his body. Song end. After taking a few deep breaths, Naruto glared at Danzo, who was staring at him incredulously. He swung his wifist in the direction of the top of the door behind Danzo, collapsing and blocking it as he said, "You should have run when you had the chance." "Now, I'm gonna kill you," he said, noting that Mangekyo was still flaring. Danzo sneered and showed off his bandaged arm, which had 10 Sharingans implanted in total, and, wait, was that a face in his shoulder? Danzo took off the bandages from his eye to reveal a Mangekyo Sharingan, which was shaped like a 4-edged shuriken. Naruto stared in disbelief. "You mean to say what Itachi did? If it weren't for him I wouldn't have had so many to choose from." "So, you gave the order for Itachi to slaughter his clan?" Naruto said incredulously. "It was for the greater good of the village. They were planning to company op against Konoha and well Itachi prevented that." "Why are you saying this to me?" "Because even if you have the Mangekyo Sharingan, the Mokuton genes in my arm will be enough to disable to Biju if you intend on using its chakra. You still think you can control Kyuubi? Well then, let's see if you can," Naruto said, glaring at Danzo. Play. Predallion Boss Fight, Ost for Aliens vs Predators 2010. Stream. Wind release. Stream was the phrase Naruto used to launch a volley of kunai at Danzo. Danzo exhaled a gust of wind, which blew the kunai away. Naruto then appeared next to him, his claws ready, and split him in half before vanishing from view. "Nani?" Naruto activated his Hunter Pulse and saw him on the other side of the bridge. Naruto sprinted and jumped across. Forming his hammer fist, he slammed it on the broken end of the bridge, making it tilt upward. Danzo added chakra to his feet to stay. He saw Naruto running up the now falling bridge end, his wifist ready. Sent a whiplash at the top half. Danzo jumped to avoid it. Naruto's wifist tore the top half of the bridge before falling into the abyss. Naruto flew up on his wings looking at the falling bridge. He turned to see Danzo creating hand signs. Futon. Shinkagyoku, wind release. Vacuum sphere. He shot out high-pressure air bullets at Naruto. He maneuvered around them and reformed his claws and dropped down a couple feet in front of Danzo, who made more hand signs. Futon. Shinkujin, wind release. Vacuum blade. Holding 2 kunai he blew a visible chakra stream onto the kunai, making them into makeshift scimitars. They charged at each other, weapons clashing, sparks flying. However, Naruto was faster and sliced his head off, only for Danzo to blur out of existence again. What's he doing? He's using Izanagi. It places a powerful genjutsu on the user which removes the boundaries of illusion and reality within their personal space. Wait, shouldn't he have lost his sight by now if he's using Izanagi? He's used it twice. Haven't you noticed the Sharingans on his arm? 2 have closed already and he has that Mangekyo in his eye, which means he could do it 9 more times. I got it. Damn. How am I going to catch him? After drawing out a dozen 3-prong kunai and throwing them in different directions. Cage kunai no jutsu. Shadow kunai clones. Caused 1,000 kunai to fly in all directions. Danzo blocked the ones that were headed his way with stream, and Naruto ran towards him. He slashed away with his claws, and Danzo jumped back, but Naruto tried to stab him with his wifist before using Izanagi once more. After thinking, "Gotcha you now, Teme," he activated his Hunter Pulse and vanished in a flash of red and black. Danzo reappeared atop a pipe, and when he turned around, he saw Naruto grinning savagely at him. Song end. H. How did you? Danzo said, his mouth already bleeding. He kept his claws in his back and turned him toward the wall where the kunai was. A 3-pronged kunai with a seal on it. I guess you didn't notice, let me show you. The Flying Thunder God technique, or H-Hirishin. As a parting gift from my father, tell me, do you have any regrets? With a hint of venom, he inquired. My only regret was that, I never was able to surpass Hiruzen. He was always better than me. All I wanted was to make the perfect village, even if it meant turning my back on the village itself. Alright, Shimura Danzo, sayonara. As Naruto's claws twisted and tore open Danzo's insides, black and red tendrils erupted and ate him. Naruto gripped his head tightly, the intrigue web. Is there a way to get in touch with you? Danzo inquired. Just send someone to Rice Country. One of my men will escort them to the Oto village. Be aware that I won't be there at all times. I have bases everywhere in Suna, down in Iwa, and up in Kumo, Orochimaru said. Right, let's get this transplant over with. Orochimaru transplanted Hashirama's genes into his new arm, and said, okay, then, be aware, this will hurt a lot. Memories end. Naruto released his grip on his head and opened his eyes. His Mangekyo Sharingan was flaring, and the four-edged shuriken from Danzo's, or Shisui's, Mangekyo was visible in the middle of his buzzsaw pupil. Is this, Kurama? Looks like it, the Aeon Mangekyo Sharingan? I don't have enough biomass for another tendril burst. Might as well, Naruto said, gasping for air before he spread his wings and took off for the middle of the room. With a strong tug, the chakra chains, which were attached to the ceiling, started to collapse, and Naruto flew upwards to avoid the falling ruble. He then activated his armor form and crashed through the surface. Naruto's body glowed, and a glowing yellow spike started to sprout from it. Konoha Center. The bodies of Oto and Sunanin were being burned by Konoha forces at the moment. As civilians were talking among themselves about the invasion and the return of their Yondaime, they felt the earth tremble and cracks start to appear in one place before a figure shot up into the air. Reverting to his normal self, Naruto glided back to his compound, where he was confronted by his future brides. Naruto took this time to rest from exhaustion, but not before he saw an older me. I must be seeing things, man. His eyes flitted open, and he gazed at the ceiling before turning to face his surroundings. It was his room. He got up and walked slowly to the bathroom, where he activated his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and stared at his reflection. He saw that the only change was the four-edged shuriken in the center of his buzzsaw pupil. He deactivated it and entered the shower, and as the water flowed, he started to reflect on what had happened. He had defeated half of Orochimaru's forces, killed Danzo and about 60% of his root ops, and acquired new forms and bloodlines. The only things he had to contend with were the civilian council, the Suna Jinchuriki, and Orochimaru. He exited the shower by wrapping a towel around his waist and bumped into someone. Nani? Hey, Kin-chan. Oh, when did you wake up, Naruto-kun? Where was everyone a few minutes ago? Everyone except Tayuya is out helping the village. The whole place is a mess after the invasion. Naruto asked himself, why'd I feel like it was partially my fault? What's wrong with Tayu-chan? Wait, I dunno, she's been puking a lot for the last 3 days. Puking? Hold on, I've been out that long. Wait, 3 days. Well, how are things going for you all? Well, Karui and her sister are out patrolling in case any more forces appear. Karabi is watching over the Suna Jinchuriki. Most of the shinobi are disposing of the corpses and rebuilding, and the cages are discussing matters involving losses during the attack, she said as she attempted to peer at him clearly. After noticing that he was only wearing a towel, Naruto nodded and smiled, saying, oh, like what you see, Kin-chan. She blushed even more. Well, if you don't mind, I need to get dressed, he said, and Kin nodded before leaving. A minute later, Naruto emerged in another spare set of battle clothes. He knew what he had to do and would have to leave. He started by using his hunter pulse to find Gaara, sprouting his wings, and heading for the hospital, where he entered a heavily guarded room and discovered Karabi writing on a notepad while Gaara slept soundly. You're number 8, then? You're 9, too? How's one doing? Naruto asked, shaking his hand and nodding. Ever since the 4th modified his seal, he hasn't so much as mentioned trying to kill someone, he's just catching up on all those years of sleep he missed. 4th, was what Naruto was thinking. When he saw Naruto, he said, oh yeah, you're that guy Shukaku was afraid of. He saw Gaara, opening his eyes and yawning. Hey 8, what's going on, he said. Karabi turned and said, really, to Naruto. Let's just say, my bloodline lets me stuff that would give you nightmares for months. Hold on, were you battling the snake summon? Karabi questioned in surprise, that didn't look like you at all. After frightening both Jinchuriki by switching into armor mode, Naruto said, yeah, I know, scary huh, before returning to his normal demeanor and approaching Gaara. Well, seeing as we're not enemies, He held up his hand. Friends? Gaara's eyes widened a bit. He's never had friends that would accept him. And here standing in front of him were two demon hosts like himself. Guess they were right. It's best to fit in with people like yourself. Gaara shook his hands. Friends. Karabi shook Gaara's hand and said, come on, no love for B. Put there, man. Before Naruto left for the room, he saw two people down the hall holding a baby. The one he had saved from the root base. Must have been its parents. And they were crying as they held their missing child. Naruto wondered what his life would be like if his parents were still alive, but he was too preoccupied to notice the person in front of him. I apologize for not watching. Taiyu. Chan? Naruto, she uttered a half shout. Why are you in this place? After turning red, Tayuya took Naruto's hand and escorted him to the roof, where they gazed out over the dilapidated village. Taiyu. Chan? Are you alright? Taiyu. Chan, you can tell me, Naruto said, holding her hand, and Tayuya swallowed the lump on her throat, her blush deepening. Naruto, I'm pregnant, she said, looking at him. Tayuya, pregnant, as in, a baby. Naruto's brain rebooted, and his heart stopped for almost 30 seconds. He then did what any Samaritan would do in that situation. He fainted. He woke up in a hospital bed 30 minutes later, and he saw Tayuya sitting next to him. Taiyu. Chan, are you really pregnant? Tayuya closed her eyes and waited for rejection because she thought the worst was about to happen. I will become a father, my goodness, that's fantastic, Chan. When he shouted joyfully, Tayuya's eyes widened and she turned to Naruto, crying. He glomped her, and she sobbed on his shoulder, saying, Arigato Naruto. Kun. Their faces were about to lock lips when the door exploded open. What happened, Naruto? We heard you were in the hospital. I apologize if I'm disturbing you. Hiruzen, Mei, and Minato rushed in, saw Naruto and Tayuya, blushed, and laughed sheepishly until they looked at each other. Dad. He smiled and said, Hey Naruto. How are you still living, We put an end to Edo Tensei by Orochimaru. Not exactly, it seems Kin and Zaku weren't the only ones with exchange tags, Hiruzen responded on his behalf. Because Orochimaru managed to summon me, my life is attached to his. If he dies then I die as well, said Minato. With a dejected expression, Naruto turned to face Tayuya and placed her head on his shoulder. Damn, I finally meet my dad, and he's going to have to go again, he said. Naruto, what do you mean? Hiruzen inquired. The cages gasped when he said, I'm going after Orochimaru. Naruto, think this through. Orochimaru isn't to be taken lightly, he could kill you. Yes. So was Danzo, and look where that got him, he said, slicing his hand across his neck. Hold on, you located his root base. Root? They were intended to be dissolved, Minato stated. Sadly no, and it gets worse, Hiruzen said. Naruto, tell us everything. He continued by telling them about the civilian council working with Danzo, the death of the Warhawk, and the root that was observing him and foolish enough to lead him to the base. Are you certain you want to do this, Naruto? Minato inquired. Yeah, I'm sure, Dad. I'm sorry it has to be this way. Hey, don't worry about it. I'm already dead anyway, I'll just be going back to the Shinigami's stomach. Yeah, also Kurama says he's sorry. Kyuubi, he said, receiving nods from the cages as everyone turned to face him. Well then, if you excuse me, I have to some councilman to send to the T&I division, replied Hiruzen. Mei waved goodbye, winked at Naruto, and left, saying, we have our respected villages to return to. Before departing, he added, she's right, looks like I'll be on my way. Oh, and Gaki, congratulations on the promotion. Chunin, I made? Not just Chunin, Gaki, you made Jonin. Tayuya kissed Naruto's lips and said, well, you were out for 3 days, so you missed the ceremony, but that's to be expected. Oh, I see. What's this about being a father, son? Both teenagers blushed all over when Minato said that. A few hours later, Hiruzen and Minato were cracking skulls. The civilian council initially believed that their Yondaime had returned to complete the task he had begun, but after they were taken to Anko, she was eager to test out Naruto's techniques. Needless to say, the civilian council emerged from the interrogation bruised, broken, and terrified, and if you asked Anko why she was so harsh with them, she would simply respond, serves them right for messing with my Naru.koi. Kakashi was thrilled to see his old sensei again, but he was saddened to learn that his life was in danger. Sasuke was hospitalized due to chakra exhaustion, and the curse mark on his neck was starting to affect him. It was whispered in his ear that Konoha had nothing to offer him and that he was better off without them. Sai was left alone, and since Root was officially disbanded after Danzo's death, He simply ended up renting an apartment and leading a typical shinobi life, with the only things remaining the same: his fake smile and his jokes about other people's masculinity. A few hours after Naruto woke up, Karui had discussed with him the possibility of allowing her sister figure, Yugito, and her teammate, Samui, to join her as Naruto's brides. Following a session in which Yugito and Samui were choked by the Raikage, Fu, the Jinchuriki of Chome, also asked to be one of Naruto's brides, which he accepted after consulting with Hiruzen, his other brides, and the leader of Taki, who was only interested in getting rid of the demon girl. When Tayuya's pregnancy finally hit the Namikaze residence, the girls all squealed and embraced her, and she was happy to be carrying Naruto's child. She was also sure to put him through hell for the next 9 months. Karui and Enko then glomped him, saying they wanted little Naruto's too. Minato laughed heartily at his son's situation, saying that while it was hell for him when Kushina was pregnant, having so many girls with you who will eventually carry your child will make you want to end your life. When Naruto asked Kurama how Tayuya could be exhibiting pregnancy symptoms after just 1 day, Kurama had no real explanation. The only conclusion he could draw was that his bloodline played a part in it, accelerating the process, and the baby would be born in roughly 3 months. Naruto snickered at that, knowing that Tayuya would still be furious with him, but at least it would only take 3 months. We now find Naruto packing supplies for the hell he was about to ascend. He only took the necessities, primarily food, and he kissed his bride's goodbye while wearing his battle clothes and Jonin vest. He attempted to locate his father but was unsuccessful, so he left and found him at the gates. "What are you all doing here, Dad? What's it look like? I'm coming with you." "Come on Dad, I have to do this alone. Naruto, you've been alone for the past 13 years. I know I'm gonna die when this is over. So might as well do it fighting," said Minato with a grin. "Besides, think of this as family bonding. Yes, you will win Father of the Year if you include eliminating a whole village and fostering family ties with an S-rank psychopath," sarcastically, he said. "Well, I'm your father, and when I say I'm coming with you then I'm coming with you." Minato looked at his son incredulously as he said, "Dad, I can take care of myself, believe me, otherwise I wouldn't have gotten an SS rank in the bingo book." He was caught off guard when Naruto thrust a bingo book in his face, and he looked at it with a sense of disappointment because, while he was alive, Minato was only ranked S, and his son, who was SS rank, outranked him. Tisk, yeah right. Look at my son trying to act too. He uttered the words, touche, as they left the village. While Naruto was trying to explain his blacklight bloodline, Minato was, to put it mildly, shocked because he had never heard of such a power before. Naruto and Minato were jumping from tree to tree, making time with Naruto's Hunter Pulse. Minato was furious about what the villagers had done and was starting to feel a little uneasy around his son when Naruto went on about his bloodline's abilities and the fact that he had 5 more bloodlines. Naruto had gone and told him about his life. Since Minato was still a human and couldn't run all the way to Otto in 2 or 3 hours, they slowed down as they approached the Fire Country border so that his father could rest. Naruto then started talking about battle plans, and Minato decided that the best way to do so was to sneak in. He explained his plan, which was to enter at night, use any alleyways to avoid guards, and then use his Hunter Pulse to locate Orochimaru and remove him without warning the village. When Naruto revealed his scheme, Minato looked at him as though he had grown 2 heads. He said, and I quote, "Why don't we just enter through the front door and begin murdering all the motherfuckers who stand between us and Orochimaru?" said Naruto. "We could," Minato said, "but then they'd all be Naruto. It would be much quicker." Minato. However, Naruto, and much more enjoyment. Minato. Naruto. Screw it, let's move on. Being overruled made Minato cry anime tears. AN. To the person who correctly guesses your reference, Cookie. As Naruto and Minato entered Rice Country, he used Hunter Pulse once more and noticed Orochimaru's signature half a mile away. He did not notice any shinobi village insights. On their way there, they noticed a door at the base of a tree, with the majority of the entrance obscured by the roots. When Minato finally made the motion for Naruto to follow, he moved slowly around the roots without making any noise. The irony is that Naruto didn't follow suit. Instead, he changed his arms into hammer fists and smashed through the roots before making his way to the door and smashing it open. With a sweat drop in his eyes, Minato said, "Dad, you go after Orochimaru, and I'll create a diversion." His son didn't really care about stealth. When Minato realized that Naruto was going to destroy the village, or rather, the base, while he was pursuing Orochimaru, he nodded, confident that his son would not encounter any difficulties. Before taking off, Naruto remarked, "Good, Orochimaru is at least 4 levels down. Good luck, Dad." Minato defeated the three Prom Kunai in a duel and proceeded to the 4th floor. It was time for Orochimaru to switch bodies, which would take some time, as he was currently bedridden. Being an expert in espionage, he had just rushed in with the news that Orochimaru, Sama, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and the 4th Hokage have infiltrated the base, and ordered his personal assistant Kabuto to assist him during the swap. Orochimaru turned to face him and said, "Send every force available, do not let them reach this room." Orochimaru was extremely afraid when his most venerable body was swapped. "Hi, Orochimaru, Sama," Kabuto said as he took off. Naruto, he started to hear footsteps as he ran down the hallways. Using his hunter pulse, he noticed a group of Auto Nin running toward him. He switched to his whiffist and sent a whiplash that separated the Auto Nin's torso from its legs. After leaving the corridors and entering an open area with numerous pillars, Naruto used his thermal vision to see a large number of Auto Shinobi racing toward him. He knew there was more, but he needed to find a more open area to begin dealing combos. He moved his arms to his claws and started slicing away, splattering blood all over the room. At that moment, Naruto's sense of danger was triggered. He swiftly turned, transformed his left arm into a shield, and stopped tiny, bone-like bullets. He looked at the teenager, who had silver hair, an emotionless face, 2 red dots on his forehead, red eyeliner, a curse mark on his neck, and the same clothes that Tayuya was wearing when he first met her. He also saw the Auto Nins backing away. "So, you must be the Kyuubi Jinchuriki that Orochimaru Sama was referring to," the teenager replied. "Who are you?" inquired Naruto. "Isn't it costumed to give one's name first?" "Alright then, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, wielder of the Blacklight Bloodline. My name is Kimimaro of the Kagaya clan, wielder of the Shikatsuyaku, Dead Bone Pulse, Bloodline." Naruto flung out his claws and charged forward, saying, "Okay then, Kimimaro, show me what you got." Play the meta Ridley vs SSBB Ost. Kimimaro's shoulders began to sprout bones, which he grabbed and pulled out, revealing them to be rather sharp-edged. He then charged forward, causing weapons to clash. When Kimimaro realized that his bone swords wouldn't last long, he deflected Naruto's swords and backed away, placing both hands in front of him with their fingers straightened and open. "Tenshi Senden, 10-finger drilling bullets," he said, firing pawn-shaped bullets from the tips of his fingers. Naruto saw that his bone swords were reinforced with chakra and wouldn't be easily cut through. Kimimaro leapt to avoid, but his right leg was caught as Naruto used his shield to block and then switched his arm to the tendrils before launching his hands in an attempt to use the black hole technique. Tendons of black and red sprang out, snagging poor Auto Nin and slamming them firmly against Kimimaro. Naruto stood up, massaging his arm and lower torso. He made the quick hand gesture, Shinkagyoku, vacuum bullets, and fired high-pressure air bullets at Kimimaro. His arm also ejected bones that formed a lance, which he used as a shield. Naruto leapt up, formed his hammer fists, and brought them down against his lance. The first blow cracked the lance, the second cracked the ground and more, and the third hit crushed the lance and Kimimaro's lance. With his hands glowing yellow, Naruto turned them back to face Kimimaro and hurled chakra chains around him, pulling him in close before flinging him into the air. He then pulled again, slamming Kimimaro hard on the ground, causing a medium-sized crater and the dust to rise. He let him go and prepared for whatever Kimimaro might throw at him. When the dust cleared, black marks appeared crawling over his skin, eventually covering his entire body and changing him into a humanoid reptile. His skin had darkened, his arm appeared to fix itself, and his other arm formed another lance. He also had a tail with bone-like spikes running down it and tubular bones protruding from his back. "Using your curse seal already? You have forced me into it, I'll admit. You are indeed a worthy opponent, Namikaze Naruto. Let us continue," he said. Overall, when Naruto uses more than 30% of his strength, it's always to kill his opponent. Kimimaro had survived his Sora no Dorapu, Skydrop, which indicates that he is already half dead, if not dead. It appears that the last attack had a significant impact on him. Naruto nodded and moved his arms into claws. A drop of sweat fell from Kimimaro's body and they both charged as soon as it hit the floor. Metal noises filled the room, and Kimimaro's chakra enforced lance, which was now stronger than steel, echoed. The high frequency was able to pierce Kimimaro's lance as Naruto started to pour wind chakra into his claws, making them vibrate. And Royal Twin Fangs has the idea. He saw that Naruto had vanished after Kimimaro sprouted more bones from his arms and started to swipe them like his claws. Zen Keiyaku Fuin felt a hand on his neck and Kimimaro felt his strength wane as his body started to return to its natural colors and the marks started to retreat back onto his curse mark. When he looked up, he saw that his mark had vanished. Naruto had dug both of his claws upward, lifting Kimimaro off the ground, like a dual uppercut to the chest. He turned to face Naruto, who had put him on his knees and was preparing to execute when he said, "You were by far the best opponent I have ever faced," grinning as blood trickled from it. Naruto gave him a sad look and said, "I'll make it quick." Kimimaro closed his eyes and Naruto pulled his claw down, removing his head from his body. Red and black tendrils erupted and devoured Kimimaro. Song end. While holding his head, Naruto recollected Kimimaro's memories, including the fact that his best friend was a man named Jugo, that his father had him imprisoned like an animal, and that Kimimaro's devotion to Orochimaru was unwavering. As biomass consumed his arm, Naruto released his grip on his head and swung it around a few times before it transformed into a huge, double-ended blade. I'm sorry, but I think Heller's blade looks like a giant kitchen knife. The Auto Ninjas stared at Naruto in horror because he had defeated one of Orochimaru's most formidable fighters, and based on his expression, they were next. Naruto held his blade back and charged in a whirlwind motion, slicing them all in half as the few who believed in strengths in numbers chose to charge in Prototype 2, Blade Tornado. After witnessing the others try to escape, Naruto used his Devastator Tendril Burst to destroy the escaping Auto Nin by charging biomass throughout his body. After determining that there were no more enemy forces in the area, Naruto used his Hunter Pulse to locate his father, who was leaving the third level while another life force was gradually vanishing. Naruto changed his arms into the Hammer Fist and started smashing the ground in an attempt to make a hole to the next floor. "Well, looks like it's my turn to catch up," he said. Minato running down a hallway. Minato stopped in a corner and looked around, but no one was there. He kept running until a door opened and an Auto Nin entered. He saw Minato and was about to yell when Minato clamped a hand over his mouth and kicked him, tripping him. Minato then wrapped an arm around the Nin's neck and plunged a kunai into his chest. After wiping the blood off the kunai and putting it back in his pouch, he scouted the room, concealed the body, and ran on. "So the Ondaime returns to us," he said as a silver-haired teenager walked around a corner. "So Orochimaru knows we're here," he charged, saying, "Of course. Unfortunately I have to stop you. Sadly I know I can't." With precise accuracy, Minato threw a three-pronged kunai at Kabuto. He tilted his head and produced a kunai, which dug into Kabuto's throat and made Minato appear in a yellow flash. However, Kabuto abruptly poofed out, indicating that it was a shadow clone. A kunai with a unique tag was sunk into Minato's stomach as he looked down. "Kill Naruto Namikaze," a voice in his head said as his eyes darkened, and Minato started to turn to leave, determined to murder his son. While smashing the ground, Naruto made his way to the third level, currently on the second level, creating a new hole to the third. He turned to see his father approaching him. He said, "Dad, what are you doing? You should be heading for Orochimaru," before noticing the kunai and his eyes. "Oh, fuck me," he said, deflecting a strong kick that would have sent him flying halfway. "Shit. What should I do? Kurama, your father was resurrected through Edo Tensei, right? And the seal on that kunai is the thing that gives Orochimaru control over your father. You need to touch it with the original Keiyaku Fuin contract seal." Easier said than done, thought Naruto as he made quick hand gestures. Minato then launched a volley of three-pronged kunai, which Naruto blocked. Minato then reappeared in a yellow flash with a sphere of chakra, which Naruto grabbed and started tearing off his skin. Naruto reached and touched the kunai in Minato's stomach as the force beneath them cracked the walls and formed a crater. "Keiyaku Fuin!" he cried as Minato's Rasengan pushed him back. Naruto looked at Minato as he fell to the ground after crashing into a wall, causing a dent with spider web cracks. Naruto preceded him, positioned a three-pronged kunai in front of him, and proceeded to descend. "Level 4, so, it would seem not even your own father can stop you," Naruto said as he pushed open two large doors and saw a man sitting in a chair covered in bandages. "Looks like we were too late, you've already switched bodies." "Kakeke. Quite right Naruto-kun, now tell me what pleasure do you have to seek me out?" He said, "I'm here to kill you," which caused Orochimaru to chuckle. He licked his lips behind his bandages and remarked, "You see that's not going to work, and I've recently become highly interested in your bloodline. And what makes you think I'll let you have my body?" Orochimaru's neck reached out and he bit Naruto in the neck, saying, "I remember you not having a choice." Naruto smiled, but he saw that his teeth did not penetrate his flesh. Shifting his arms into his blade weapon, Naruto slashed Orochimaru in half, saying, "Like I said, what makes you think I'll let you have my body?" However, Snakes reattached his two body parts. Play. Duel of the Fates, Star Wars Episode 1 Ost. Naruto hurried Orochimaru, who slithered around to avoid his double-ended blade, and said, "Nothing is ever easy, is it?" Orochimaru quickly made hand gestures, Sene Tajashu, many hidden shadow snake hands. Snakes emerged from Orochimaru's bandages and charged at him. He retaliated by grabbing a nearby desk and throwing it at the snakes, who grabbed it and tore it apart. Naruto swung his arms into claws and caught the incoming blade, slamming him to the ground and hitting him against the walls and the floor. He brought out his hammer fists and crushed his lower torso. Orochimaru opened his mouth, thinking he was going to shoot something out, but he backed out, and another Orochimaru emerged from the old one, just as snakes shed their skin. After grabbing the Kusanagi, Orochimaru charged at Naruto, who blocked with his claws, and the two engaged in a stalemate that lasted for about 10 minutes. Orochimaru looked into Naruto's eyes while he flared his Ain Mangekyo. "That's the," he screamed, dropping his defenses. Amaterasu. Orochimaru was caught in a black flame that he shot with a whisper. Naruto stared at Orochimaru, who had turned into a giant white deranged snake, and said, "What the fuck are you?" Orochimaru had no time to flee, so he used his backup and shed his skin. "Do you like it? This is my true form," he said, staring at you in disbelief. "My body was mutated into the very being in front of you as a result of the continuous experiments on it. References, anyone? All I have to say is, you're one ugly motherfucker." As Orochimaru charged, Naruto retreated a little, his Ain Mangekyo still active, and transformed into his armor form with the blade weapon. Naruto extended his arm and grasped the snake's head as it crashed into a wall, then started stabbing it with his blade. Orochimaru screamed in agony and leapt up, still holding Naruto in his jaws. Surface of the Rice Country. Orochimaru charged at Naruto as he was getting up, and Naruto vanished in a yellow flash, leaving Orochimaru to hit his snot on the ground after the snake threw Naruto to the ground, where he skidded. Naruto deactivated his Amor form. Apparently, going through 4 levels of Earth damaged his armor. Song end. Are you alright, Naruto? Hey, Dad. I thought you would give me all the fun. With the cancellation of the seal for control over Minato and the inability to apply his curse mark to Naruto, Orochimaru became enraged and chose to use his ultimate technique to put an end to the situation. Yamata no Jutsu. A giant, white, 8-headed snake appears when Naruto and Minato turn around after noticing a shadow growing. It appears to be far from over. Are you prepared? 2.San. Father, ready when you are. Susanoo. Jutsu no Kuchiyose. There was a hooded figure watching from a distance, intently following the entire battle. The hooded figure said to no one in particular, "I just hope that when the time comes he will be ready. It seems like my experiment worked after all."
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.